It was a vortex of terror down in Stockbroker Belt this afternoon.
Certainly was. Literally, a downpour to beat all downpours,
literally a vortex of terror, and rain coming horizontally at my eyeballs like spears.
What were you doing out and about in the middle of it?
I got caught out. Yeah. I got out when, I walk most of the time if I don't have to.
Yes.
Now, believe it or not, there's a picture today of a flood in a place called Wallington.
Yes, I've seen that picture.
Right.
In fact, I tweeted that picture out, and funnily enough, people thought it was you.
No, it's not me. It's not me. But the connection is quite remarkable. You see, that is on the route that you could take if you're coming from Stockbroker Belt into London, and that's just sort of the start of Greater London, if you see what I mean.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It's on the border between Surrey.
The name? What is it? Is it like an A3 road or what?
No, it's not. It's just like a shopping road through a place called Wallington. You know?
Okay.
Now, the thing is, the reason it floods is because it literally is a deep dip under a railway line and then up again the other side.
Yeah. Haven't they got a drain at the bottom of it?
Well, they must have, but I couldn't cope with the amount of water that came down. I mean, the heavens literally just opened.
Yeah.
Now, the funny thing is, you will not believe this, but there is a bank on that road.
Yeah.
Right on the...
When you say a bank, you mean a bank?
A bank. I mean,
you don't mean like a bank, like a sort of a curve?
No, sorry. I mean a bank like an institution that deals with money.
Oh, I see. Right.
Yes, that sort of bank.
Yeah.
Where we are registered as a company.
Really?
Yeah, where that
Why are you giving
place.
this information away?
Well, it doesn't matter, does it?
It does matter.
Why?
Because every piece of information that you give away about your financial situation is picked upon by people who would like to take all your money away.
No, you don't understand.
Yes, I do understand.
No, you don't understand.
If somebody wants to now know where the 2 Mike's bank account is registered, they now know.
No.
You've just told them.
No, they don't.
You've just told them.
No, I didn't.
You've just said that our account is registered at a bank in Wallington.
No, you idiot. The bank building also contains Company's House.
Does it?
For Surrey.
Really?
Right, and that's where we're registered.
Oh, good. Well, why don't you tell them that as well?
Well, why not?
Well, because these are pieces of information which are supposed to be financially, sensitive.
Right, what's going to happen now?
Well, anybody who wants to hack into the account will now have the information about where the company's material is kept in Company's House, and also where the bank account can be located.
Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Well, we'll have to empty the bank account then, won't we?
Well, you probably will, actually. You probably have to now move it somewhere else.
Yeah, I'll do that. All right.
You're a plank you are.
I wouldn't worry about it, mate. I'm just trying to be helpful and let people know what's going on. You know what I mean?
Did you see the piece of video from that particular flood as well?
Yeah,
where there's
somebody's trapped in a car.
No, before that, there's people sort of stopping before the, the great wall of water.
Yes.
But you can't tell, obviously, when you're driving towards the water, how deep it is, right? And there's people actually on the side of the pavement waving people on. Going, go on.
Yeah,
go on
through,
you
mate.
go.
It's only
You'll be
3
all right.
foot of water,
On you go. And then this guy goes through in what looks like a Vauxhall Zafira, which is a bad enough car already because they burst into flames, those things.
Disappears.
And he just disappears under the water. And they're all cheering, laughing. Hey, what an idiot.
Yeah.
I mean, what sort of people would do that?
I suppose that's quite amusing,
well,
really.
It's not. No,
it's
the sort of thing I would not stand on the side of a road and wave people towards a water so deep that they would basically kill their car.
Well, neither me.
I don't think that's the sort of thing you should be doing.
I totally agree with you.
Now, apart from your travels to Wallington...
Excuse me.
Sorry, I've got a very important question to ask you.
I haven't told you that. I mean, rivers were where pavements used to be and roads used to be, okay?
Burst in their banks.
I'm telling you, where pavements used to be, there were ponds.
Right.
Where there used to be leafy lanes, there were lakes. That was all over Stockbroker Belt today. I mean, it was punishing.
Right.
And what's more, I got so wet. I don't
understand how you got... Why don't you just go in somewhere? Why did you keep walking in it?
You couldn't go anywhere.
Why not?
I went into the dry cleaners.
Why did you pop into the bank?
No, I went into the dry cleaners.
Did you get some shirts folded?
No, I had some trousers to pick up.
Trousers?
Yes.
In the dry cleaners?
Yes.
Oh, right.
Yes.
Did you have them pressed?
No, I had them shortened, actually.
Shortened?
Yeah. And, so what's your problem?
Of course. Have you got turn-ups on them?
No, they haven't, but I had them shortened.
Well, these trousers you bought Sports Direct were too long?
No, I bought them actually from Marks and Spencer's.
Oh, right.
Yeah, that's where I buy all my chinos, right?
Is that right?
And
why don't you buy the one size that fit? They do all different sizes there.
Because I'm smarter than the average bear, and I buy them deliberately longer, so that when I get them shortened, they're broader at the ankle than normal trousers.
Why do you want that?
Because they look
how much you get them shortened by? About a foot?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, about a foot, yeah.
A foot?
And they look more fashionable. And,
you get them shortened by a foot?
About 9 inches, 9 or 10
really?
inches, yes, yeah.
Well, what size do you buy? Like that because your inside leg measurement you've told us is 25 3/4, right?
No, it's not. It's 26 and a half.
26 and a half.
And you can get the length of trousers up to 36.
So you're buying them 35-ish and having
that's
them
right,
cut back?
Yeah, that's right.
It's bonkers.
Yeah, no, it's not. No, it works very well.
What size waist?
Normal size.
Normal?
Yeah.
What, 38?
No, it's just normal.
42?
I don't know.
Well,
I don't look.
What do you mean you don't know? Don't you try them on?
I don't need to. I just look at them and I think that's about right, and I just wear them.
That's about right.
It's no problem.
Well, what size do you think you are?
Don't panic, eh?
What size do you think? Why are you so sensitive about the size of your waist?
I am not sensitive at all. Anyway, listen, what I was going to say to you was I got absolutely drenched because when I was in the dry cleaners, he asked me to leave. Because, yeah.
Not surprisingly. Why?
Well, I'll tell you why. Because it was quite busy, and the only place to wait was in the doorwell.
Oh, yeah.
But if you waited in the doorwell, the alarm was going bing, 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 bing.
Why was there an alarm going?
Well, because that goes if somebody walks in or walks out.
Oh, I see.
But I was standing at the crucial point where it went bing, bing, bing,
what,
bing,
you mean
bing,
the place
bing.
was so rammed inside you couldn't get inside the shop?
Well, it's only a small shop. And
it sounds very chaotic, this day of yours.
Yeah, well, it was a bit chaotic. So anyway, I then had to walk the last sort of 150 yards home in pouring rain.
Why didn't you just go in for a coffee or something, or go to a pub?
Well, I don't do that sort of thing. I don't go to a pub during the day.
You don't go to a pub during the day?
No. I mean, you do, I know, but I don't.
Well, no, I mean, I didn't go to a pub today, but I got a picture here from a man that you ran into today.
Oh, yes?
Stephen. He said, thrilled to meet Mike Parry today in London as I embarked on unexpected bladderation.
Oh, that's right.
And he said, an absolute gent. Now, where do you think that picture's taken?
That picture was taken at Wetherspoons Victoria Station. Right. It's his drink, not mine.
That's a pub?
I wasn't in the pub.
Well, you're in the pub because you have to go up the stairs and out the back of the pub to stand in that part of it.
No.
So how did you manage to get there without actually being in the pub?
Because I walked up the back entrance. Yes,
no, you can't.
I'm telling you can. I walked at the back entrance to the pub, right? To go along the passageway at the back to go through, to go to the station. It's as simple as that.
No, because because Wetherspoons is above the station concourse.
Yeah, from one side to the other, and you can go through it to get to the platform that I needed to go to Stockbroker.
You expect us to believe that you were in a pub, but you didn't have a drink.
Yeah, exactly.
You expect us to believe that this guy Stephen met you.
He came up to me.
You just happened to be walking past.
Came up to me and said hello. He's a very nice chap.
Why are you
not
wearing a jacket?
Because I didn't wear a jacket when I was out today because it was too hot.
I see.
I had my shoulder bag with me with all my chattels in it.
Well, I guess if Stephen's listening, he can let us know whether you were having a drink or not.
Well, I wasn't having a drink. Don't worry about it. Now,
I'm not worried about it. I just don't know why you would say you weren't if you were clearly pictured in a pub.
I think it's about time we have the result of winners and losers, don't you?
I think you can have that. There's not a lot of time left at the moment.
Well,
so
we need it right now.
We can either do it straight away.
Let's do it now.
And not dwell on it. The result is as follows for winners and losers. 1,367 votes have been cast.
Yes.
And as of midnight, the result was a 51% to 49% victory to Mr. Mike
Porky
Parry.
Thank you. Woo, 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 woo. Thank you, everybody, for... Excuse me, I got excited there. Thank you, everybody, for voting for me. It was justice. Justice was done, and it will be done again next week and the week after.
That
Thank you so
makes it
much.
intriguingly 4.5 to 3.5.
In my
with
favour.
only about 4 weeks to go, or possibly 5. We're not quite sure. So well done, congratulations.
Excellent.
You'll notice that I don't accuse you of gerrymandering. You'll notice that I don't accuse you of anything untoward.
Well, you can't.
And you notice that I congratulate you. So let that be a lesson to you, so that when you know the next time you lose, you can be a little bit more gracious.
Well, you're so ashamed of your behaviour and suggesting that I cheated.
I'm not at all ashamed.
Because I had the massive victory in the Porky quiz last Friday morning.
I don't see how you can call it a victory.
I've just had a massive victory
in winners
and
getting
losers.
6 out of 10.
I will have a massive victory tonight on the Ask Porky, because that will help.
Well, you don't win Ask Porky, you're helping people.
Helping people.
How is that a victory?
I'll have another
victory
tomorrow night when I do my TV review in Porky Vision.
That's not a victory either.
Well, it will be.
No.
It will be, don't worry.
You are a sadly deluded man.
No, I'm not.
Who sees everything in terms of winning and losing.
9.
Which is why you're so unhappy most of the time, because you're basically, in life, a loser.
I'll tell you I'm a bit fed up with at the moment.
What's that?
Noel Edmonds. I mean, he made a bizarre...
Well, he's made a bit
rant.
of an idiot of himself, hasn't he?
Yeah, well, the thing is, it's a little bit unforgivable because it's got a commercial bent to it. He appears to be, I'm not sure this is absolutely true, but he appears to be an ambassador or something.
He's endorsing something, anyway.
Yeah, for a particular machine. But to sort of promote this machine, he made the outrageous statement that people get cancer because they don't have enough mental strength not to get cancer.
Well, he was saying negative thoughts.
Yeah, negative thoughts and all that kind of stuff. And then he said, but don't worry, I know you can have positive thoughts. You can get one of these machines.
Yeah.
And
it's a very odd thing to do, isn't it?
The Advertising Standards Authority are now looking into it, right? But the point is, if he's never had a serious illness, that's an incredibly insensitive thing to do, because you're blaming people for not fighting back against something over which they have no control.
Certainly, having known people in my extended family who had cancer, I mean, their positive attitude certainly made them survive longer.
Doctors told me,
made them survive longer. And I think without wishing to do him any favours, maybe he was just a bit clumsy in the way he came out with it.
No, I think he was trying to make a point. I mean, without blowing my own trumpet, doctors told me my very positive attitude towards acute heart failure was very, very important.
But how does that play with your pessimism, though? Because you were telling me the other night that you always think the worst is going to happen. So when you were about to told you were going to die, presumably you had to completely reverse that and start being optimistic.
Yeah, but when something smacks you in the face like that, I'm very, very good at facing it head on. Really, I don't go hide away, and I face it head on.
Well, I think a lot of people. Basically, when they get confronted by a massive, really serious deal, handle it very differently from the way they handle everything else.
Yeah, strange thing about this guy is he's broken a machine called the EMP pad, a device that aims to stimulate cellular resonance. Praising the machine, he said a simple box that slows aging, reduces pain, lifts depression and stress, and tackles cancer.
Yeah.
Yes, tackles
blatantly
cancer.
Ridiculous, isn't it?
It's utterly nonsensical.
Blatantly ridiculous.
And it gives people false hope. It either gives them false hope or it makes them depressed that I'm not trying hard enough to beat my own disease.
I knew a guy that sold him a kitchen once.
Say again?
I knew a guy that sold him a kitchen once.
Sold Noel Edmonds' kitchen, right, okay.
And after the first time we went round to see him, as a kind of major sort of consultant, because it's one of these very expensive kitchens, Edmonds requested that he was not sent back because he was so tall.
Oh, really? Is Edmund Shaw?
Yeah.
Oh.
He didn't like the guy being taller than him.
My sister launched a beer in this country called something Light, Miller Light, right? And they took on Noel Edmonds, I think it was this campaign, as the face of the adverts and all that kind of stuff. It involved moving around the country one day to do a promotional, and she flew with him in his helicopter everywhere. He flies his own helicopter. Yeah. She said he's a perfectly charming chap, you know what I mean?
Chap. We are.
There you go, the many faces of Noel Edmonds.
Right. Now, before we finish, we should have done this a bit earlier. Chris tweeted us earlier and said, any chance you could wish my wife Amber a happy birthday tonight? We live in Florida and listen to the podcast every day.
Yep.
So we'd like to wish her a happy birthday.
Amber, very, very happy birthday to you. Beautiful name, although it's getting a bit of bad publicity, the name Amber, at the moment, isn't it?
Because of Amber Heard?
The Johnny Depp partner, But Amber, you are...
Well, that's a bit harsh.
You are clearly a lovely woman and we wish you well. And
Charles Porky coming up in the next hour, of course. Lots more for us to talk about. Right now, though, we're going to talk to our favourite Australian, Miss Sandra Lee. Sandra, very good morning to you.
Good morning to you two fellows. How are you?
Very well indeed.
Sandra.
Tell me sorry we missed you last week, because you were off on a sort of secret mission in New Zealand, weren't you?
I was indeed. I was stuck in archives doing research for my next book, and it was my bad. I completely forgot that I had been booked in with you two boys, so I apologise.
No need for an apology. We're very flexible here. What's the new book about?
Yeah.
Well, I'll give you the secret heads up. It's about one of the Australian dam busters.
Oh, really?
Really? Porky would be very interested.
Yeah, indeed, I would. Yeah, that's fascinating. Is it the last one who died last year?
No, that was Les Munro. He was the chap who was over in he was a New Zealander. He was one of the pilots on the second raid, and in fact, I was over there looking at some of his material.
Oh, okay, that's fascinating. Oh, well, that's great. Well,
when you get it near coming out, we must get you on to talk about that.
Indeed.
But one of the things is that when you flew back, I saw a tweet from you saying that you were delayed on the runway at Sydney because the floods and the storms and everything else that were coming in were terrible, weren't they?
Oh, well, we've had 3 days over the weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and abating on Monday. But the storms were unbelievable, and we were held in a holding pattern to get down to Sydney for half an hour because everyone was backed up. And then we couldn't get a gate on the runway because the airport had closed all but one runway, and everyone was delayed. So up to 2 hours delays.
It sounds absolutely horrendous. But that's not the only problem Australia have got at the moment, is it, Sandra? I mean, you're going through some weird weather situations on either side of your continent, but also the sharks and even the crocodiles are in play.
Well, probably not in plague, but there have been a couple of croc attacks in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And there have been 2 shark attacks in the last week since we've last spoken. And even more crazy, we've had a kangaroo attack 2 women who were riding their bikes on a place called Riesling Trail in the Clare Valley, which is wine region over in South Australia.
Well, I've never heard of a kangaroo attacking
terrible.
people. What did the kangaroo do?
Well, the kangaroo actually was perched up on a rock overlooking these two women who were riding along, and they spotted it out of the corner of their eye and thought, oh, how cute is that, a big groo? And then all of a sudden it's just launched itself on the first woman and thumped her off her push bike.
Wow.
And, in fact, it exploded her breast implants, she said later. They acted like airbags.
Oh, dear.
My God. This is
And
shocking.
then it leapt off her and attacked the other woman before bounding off.
Well, no,
it didn't nick the bike, did it?
Yeah.
A cycling roo. In fact, we had one of those at the opening of the Sydney Olympic Games, so it wouldn't have surprised me.
Exactly. But, Sandra, what I think is most shocking about that attack is I didn't know that Australian women had succumbed to the idea of having their breasts inflated. I thought it was something that only... only happened...
Inflated?
Yeah, I thought it was something that only happened in the Northern Hemisphere.
Why would you think that?
Well,
What do you think Australia is? Do you think Australia is some backwater?
No, but I think it's full of bronzed ladies in bikinis who have natural assets, you see.
Really?
Yeah, exactly.
How bizarre.
Mine are all natural, Mike. Mine are all natural.
Exactly.
Don't get him excited, Sandra, for heaven's sake.
Quite right.
Now, the woman who was eaten by the shark out in off the coast of Perth was actually swimming about 1.5 miles offshore, as far as I believe, and she was scuba diving, right?
She was scuba diving, and she went scuba diving regularly. She was a great fan of it, and she was actually an English woman who only came out to Australia 5 years ago with her husband, and she was a nursing educator and in midwifery over at one of the universities in Perth, just south of Perth, and so I mean it was.
She was from Porky's hometown as well.
Yeah, Sandra, she came from the University of Chester, which is where I grew up.
She came from Chester?
Yeah, she came from Chester and worked at the university there. So my hometown is in mourning for this poor lady.
Really?
And in fact, the newspaper on which I started my career, the Chester Chronicle, have just devoted 4 pages of reportage to it. So if you get a phone call from somebody from the Chester Chronicle, send them my regards.
Yeah, they won't have heard of you. Why are you making this story about you?
I'm not. No, it's about the poor lady who died.
Yeah.
We were just saying the other night, by the way, Sandra, these people who go missing when alligators get them, we understand one of them went missing in a place called Alligator Creek.
Crocodile
Creek, that's right. So he thought, well, actually, isn't that an indication of the fact that perhaps it's not the safest place in the world to go walking at dawn along a beach when the crocs are at play?
Exactly, and there are.
What's this at play thing?
So we just let Sandra speak.
What is at play? What do you mean by that? Do you know what that means, Sandra?
I think he means that they're more nocturnal animals. It's sort of like dusk and dawn, and that's where they go out and feed.
Exactly. Thank you.
I think what you mean by at play is kind of just lying in wait. Is that what you mean?
Well, no, I'm
at play. I mean, it's like you want to put a sign up saying crocodiles at play.
Why are we having this ridiculous conversation when Sandra was telling such a wonderful story and you decided to interrupt with some ridiculous...
Well, because I want to know what at play means.
Well, Sandra's told you. Sandra, tell us more, please.
About the lady who was walking along the beach at 10:30 at night and then decided to go wading. Well, there is an argument that she did one of the most stupidest things known up in that part of the world. There's signs everywhere saying don't go in the water at dark, don't go in at dusk, because the crocodiles are sort of at their most active at those times. And that area is renowned for crocs. And same with, there was another croc attack up in Darwin, which is a day and a half drive away from where the woman was attacked. Yeah. And a croc actually flipped over a tinny of 2 old blokes who were out crabbing. And one of the chaps drowned under the tinny and the other, the man had to sort of flee into mangroves where he fought off crocs until he was rescued by 3 professional crabbers.
Good God.
Crabbers. It's got everything, this story, isn't it?
Yeah.
So are they thinking of putting some of these signs up, crocodiles at play in these places?
Well, sure.
They were already there, and I think they just say, beware, crocodiles here.
Yeah. It's a bit
so
stupid.
If you see a sign that says, beware, crocodiles here, wouldn't you just, walk the other way?
Yeah, you would. If you're a person with sort of any common sense, you would just think, right, I'm not going to risk it here, because these are massive, these beasts up there. They're salties, and they can get to about 3 or 4 metres long. They're huge, and they are, they're the largest known reptile on the planet.
Right.
And are they they're also a protected species, aren't they? You can't, kill them, can you?
No, but there are every now and then organised and managed culls of them if they deem that the population is too out of control.
Yeah, I understand that.
What was that bag you were showing me the other day? The
Hermes...
the Hermes... Was it Burberry bag? Hermes bag. The Birkin bag.
There's a Birkin bag. It's a handbag, Sandra, and it costs £265,000, and it's because it's made from the skin of an albino crocodile. I mean, that was the most repulsive sort of handbag in the world, isn't it?
I would think so.
Yeah, and it's got diamonds encrusted on it, and
well, it's a kind of Kardashian-esque bag, isn't it?
Well, Posh Spice has got one apparently, and you sort of wonder where they got the albino skin from. If crocodiles are protected,
probably from an albino crocodile.
Well, that's right, but I mean, somebody's going around shooting them on the side. But I think it'd be quite difficult.
An albino, as they call it in America.
It'd be quite difficult, wouldn't it, to smuggle, a 5 metre long albino crocodile out of Australia without the authorities cottoning on.
Yes, they're
put it in a bag.
Animals,
yeah, maybe, yeah.
But what about?
It's a big bag.
Yeah, it's not funny that. It's poor animals suffered.
Yeah, all right. I'm sure you care, right? This is a man who puts electric shocks up the cat's jacksie around his way.
Excuse me.
Now, what about what the advice is for crocodiles if you see one? Because we know what you're supposed to do.
Put a stick in its mouth, don't you?
This is another cartoon memory of yours.
No, that's true.
His whole life is based on cartoons from the 50s, from when he was growing up, right?
No.
So he thinks you can stick a stick in the crocodile's mouth. But they tell you, right, if you see a shark, that you're supposed to try and punch it on the nose or something to try and get away from it. What do they tell you to do with a crocodile?
Don't go near the water's edge. Don't go anywhere near them, and certainly don't risk your life by putting a stick in its mouth.
Oh, really? I thought that would help.
Yes, you might not have an arm.
No.
Well, okay. Now, these crocs, they come out the water, don't they, and grab prey and then drag it back into the water.
I think the woman that was killed, was she not did the crocodile not come out and just drag her back into the deep?
She was paddling, I think, in shallow water.
She was paddling. Yeah, she was paddling up to her waist, and it basically got her. And the other woman tried to, find it off, but with no luck. There's no way, any woman against a croc is going to come out on top.
Oh no, absolutely. And do they move at pace, these crocs? Because funny enough,
I think they're quicker than you would think.
Yeah, we saw a picture of one on a golf course in Florida last week. Do you remember? Yeah. And it was moving like the speed of a dog. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, they're very, very fast, and they're even faster in water. They're incredible swimmers. So that's why, you wouldn't risk it. You'd be really, really insane to risk it.
Yeah, well, the only sort of crocodile I like is the one that James Bond got inside of at the start of that Bond film. Remember when he turned up in
inside of it
in the Bahamas? Yeah, remember?
No,
turned up in a dinner jacket, but he was in a plastic crocodile, wasn't he? Yeah, that's how he arrived.
No.
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
Yeah.
I remember it either.
Yeah, I'm absolutely certain. Yeah.
Are you sure it's not some porn version of James Bond?
No. It was the opening sequence, and he
I don't remember the crocodile.
He had a plastic crocodile with its jaw moving up and down, but it was actually James Bond inside it. I thought everybody remembered that.
Was it Roger Moore?
No, no, it was Sean Connery.
Sean Connery,
Inside
a crocodile.
Inside a crocodile. I thought everybody remembered that one.
We'll have to go. Yeah, have to go look that one up. Sandra, as ever, a delight to talk to you, and good luck with the book, and we'll talk to you soon.
Indeed.
Thank you very much, and have a great day.
And
we will indeed, Sandra. Thank you very much indeed.
The beautiful Sandra.
Lovely to have had you on the show.
Who's just told you that her breasts are all natural.
Yeah, that's right.
That was a bit unnecessary information.
Well, really. She's amongst friends. So
yeah, indeed.
Okay.
Indeed. Just a few people listening.
Madness, they call it madness. Madness, they call it madness.
What are you laughing at?
Sorry.
What are you laughing at?
The caption to a picture I've just seen.
What is it?
Have a look at this picture, right?
Is this in tomorrow's... Oh, yeah. Who is that?
Well, then read the caption.
Oh, okay. Dear God.
I'll explain to the listeners.
It does explain. I don't think you can explain that on the air.
It's a little bit unkind.
No, I don't think you can explain that on the air.
It's a foreign report here that we've got on social networking. And it says a team of 22 lawyers argued yesterday over whether the media mogul Sumner Redstone, who I've never heard of, considering we're in the media business all our life.
I think Redstone is a big company in the States, isn't it?
Is it Redstone?
I think so,
yeah. 93... Pictured above with his former partners, Manuela Herzer left and Sidney Holland was in his right mind when he removed 2 executives from his company board.
Yeah.
He's 93 and these 2 ladies are in their 30s, I would say. But it's one of those... It's almost like, what was that? Oh, You're Being Served.
Yeah.
Remember Mr.
It does look a bit like that, yeah.
The chairman of the board.
Apparently they own CBS and Viacom.
Oh, do they?
So a big company.
Oh, well, they're a
States.
very, very big company indeed, yeah.
So he's probably a very, very multi-millionaire man. So
I'm
that's
sure-
something
I'm sure
nasty
he
about
is.
him. He might sue you.
Oh, I'm not saying anything nasty about him. What I'm saying is, can you imagine the battle for that man's fortune if at 93 he sadly, expires?
Yeah, no, I've got a couple
know
of
what I
tweets here on the old Russian submarine front.
Right.
One says, this is a text actually from someone who doesn't give a name, Russian sub in the channel.
Yes.
That might explain the Army Chinook helicopter that's been buzzing the coast here in Eastbourne all night.
Oh, right.
Most unusual.
Right. Well, the Chinooks are usually troop carriers. We see them over Portsmouth Harbour all the time.
Yeah, no, they fly up and down the
people
Thames
around.
all the time as well.
They do,
because
yeah.
there's the SAS stations, which is sort of
training
down near,
place.
down near Canary Wharf.
That's
yeah.
right, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And there was
okay.
one here from somebody who I'm
Yeah.
just trying to find, because it basically said that even Italy have got more submarines than we've got now.
No, don't they have?
Well, I think they do.
We a lot of our submarines are secret, but from the very nature, they only float around under the sea, so you can't see them.
Yeah, but everybody's submarines are secret and float around
Yeah,
under the sea.
yeah, I know,
It's
but
not like we've got the only submarines that go under the sea.
Yes, I know that, but we still have a very impressive base at Fast Lane, right?
Yeah.
Which houses our submarines, and people who have worked there and do work there speak very highly of the submarine service. Believe me. In fact, I think we've got more submarines than we've got surface ships.
Well, that may well be. We've
Believe
only
it or
got
not.
about 2 of them.
Yeah,
now,
well,
I think you made a mistake on the old James Bond thing. But Hara says this. Porky's thinking of Hannibal in the A-Team. He turns up in a crocodile suit.
No, I'm not. In at the start of one James Bond film, he turns up in a
Is
plastic...
that the picture there?
Let me have a look.
Is that it?
Oh, look there.
That's Roger Moore.
Roger Moore. Well, he's certainly in a crocodile plastic one. Yeah.
Well, they couldn't have done it twice, surely.
Yeah, they did.
So Sean Connery was in a crocodile, and so was Roger Moore.
I'm sure Sean Connery turned up in one of the early Bond films, Dr. No or something like that,
Well,
maybe even the
it
first
says
one.
Roger Moore in Octopussy.
Yeah, that's Octopussy, yeah, but I think it
Well,
was...
they wouldn't have done it twice, surely.
I think they did, honestly.
Really?
I've got this image in my head of Sean Connery climbing out of this plastic...
But that's the picture there of Roger Moore.
No, I don't think it is. And he had a white dinner jacket on. With a black dicky bow, and I'm sure.
Well,
I'm
there's
pretty
lots
sure.
of. I think you're thinking of the time where he's I think it might even be Dr. No, where he appears in a white dinner jacket, but he's coming out of a wetsuit. I don't think he's coming out of a crocodile.
Do you know what I think he does next? I think he goes round all these what look like fuel storage towers, right,
Yeah.
and plants a load of bombs and blows the whole complex up. Minutes after he's walked into the local casino
Right.
and sits there smoking a cigarette, playing cards, while all around him is chaos and
Yes.
he's caused it all himself.
Right.
I think it was that one.
Right.
I think it was that one.
Okay.
And I think that was probably Dr. No.
Yeah, that's what I just
Certainly
said.
wasn't Goldfinger.
No, it wasn't Goldfinger.
No,
It was definitely not Goldfinger. Now, a couple more
Yep.
texts and tweets to
Okay.
read out to you. To try these electric bikes with built-in lights, lock and tracking via an app, says Sharky, and they're made by Van Moof.
Oh, you can
Company called Van Moof.
so you don't get them stolen.
So you don't get stolen.
Right,
yeah.
now, let me talk to you about this, actually. Now, I'm not going to identify who this guy is. It's one of those people who tell you horoscopes, OK? And every newspaper's got one.
Yeah, what you mean, an astrologer?
Astrologer. Every newspaper's got one. I'm not going to identify it because that's unfair. And also, I don't want to make out that we've got a campaign against anybody. But I never look at these things. But
Well,
I
even
just-
apart from Martin O'Neill and Roy Keane.
well, exactly. But today, because the publication I was reading fell open at the page, I decided to just have a quick read of it, OK?
Oh, yeah.
And
Are you going to read us your horoscope or mine?
I'm going to read mine, but it doesn't matter. What's yours?
Mine's Leo.
Lee, I'll read yours instead, OK?
Right.
So here we go. This is yours for today. Here are some wise words. We've chosen them because they seem relevant for you today.
Yeah.
No one is perfect, yet when two people become intensely attracted, they can both forget this. They imagine they have found a companion who meets every need and touches every part of their hearts. At some point, the ideal image must be revised to match reality. That can disappoint, but it need not mean it's without merit. Love should not be blinding. We must let our eyes adjust to the light.
He doesn't know me very well, does he?
Well, does that have any relevance
No.
to your day today?
No.
Because this is from
No,
yesterday
but
morning.
I'll tell you
see what I
exactly
mean?
who that is without you even telling me.
Right.
I bet you any money that is Jonathan Caner's son.
It's his nephew, actually, Oscar
or
Kaner.
whoever it is that's now doing
Oscar
it, because
Kaner.
that is Kaner's style.
Yeah, right.
Because the whole point of Kaner is basically to write something which is completely baffling, but might touch something in you.
Yeah, exactly.
So you ring the phone number to hear the full story.
Yeah, OK. Now, mine says, right, just very briefly, today, Jonathan would have wanted you to read these words. At times, the problems that beset us may drive us to despair. What's the point of even trying, we say? Nothing is ever going to make a difference. We are especially prone to such incidents. Now, look, I won't go any further, but actually, the mood I'm in my life at the moment is completely the opposite.
Right.
You know, I'm going through a wave of tremendous optimism.
Are you?
Yeah, you're not...
That's very unusual for you.
Well, not really.
Are you saying that you're normally a pessimist then?
Yeah, usually.
Really?
Yeah, usually.
Why are you a pessimist?
Well, because
you've
always...
got so much to look forward to.
No, you've always got to expect the worst to
Why?
happen, and I mostly do. But at the moment...
No, I think that's awful.
No, well,
I can't imagine
anyway.
how awful it must be to go through life expecting the worst to happen.
Well...
So I go through life expecting the best to happen.
No, if you prepare yourself for the worst, then you can't get that badly disappointed.
That's an awful attitude to have.
Well, I can't help it. It's the way I am. Now, what I'm going to say is, it's not just those. This is the point I'm making now, Mike, to you, right? At the end, right, when it's given you what I consider to be a load of gobbledygook,
yes,
and you have already confirmed that, you consider yours to be a load of gobbledygook, do you know what it says at the end of yours?
What?
It says... To hear how your life could change for the better very soon, call your latest week-ahead forecast on this number.
Yeah. Well, that's what I just said, isn't it? Because that's how it works.
Right, now hang on. Now mine says, after all this gobbledygook, which I don't recognise as being me at all, it's even more tantalising. Listen to this. This is in italics, OK, at the end, so it's like specially readable, you know?
Right.
Do yourself a favour and treat yourself. There's exciting news in your latest 4-minute forecast. Call me now on this number.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, I think that... I really think that borders on sort of... I don't know. I think it's unsavoury.
Well, there are people who like reading these things. There are people who put stock by them and take them very seriously. And they are a massive multi-million-pound business because, as I've said to you before, I think Kaner was previously at the Mirror when I was there.
Yes.
And he worked for a relatively small sum.
Yeah.
Because he told everybody that he got the bulk of his money from the phone lines.
Yeah.
And the phone lines make millions.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you now. And they have to...
But, I mean, you have to say, as much as you could accuse people of being sort of preying on the vulnerable, people know what they're doing when they ring these lines.
Well, I'm not sure if they do. Anyway, listen, this is the call rates. Landline calls, because I have to put this in, cost 80p a minute, plus your phone company's access charge.
Right.
Now, this is what I found on. I didn't realise the world had changed this much. From a mobile phone, dial, and that gives you a number, where calls cost only 65p a minute.
Oh, cheaper by mobile.
Yeah, I didn't realise it was cheap by mobile these days.
Yeah,
right?
but no, of course, they say that, but then it depends on how much your mobile carrier then charges you on top of that.
Well, it says 65p a minute for O2 network, or...
That's what I mean. So if you're not in O2...
75p a minute for all other networks,
see?
Right? Yeah.
Well, at least they're putting it down there, though. They're not...
Well, they have to by law.
Yes, I know that.
If you encourage somebody to ring a phone number, you've got to tell them how much...
No, I understand that.
I
think it's 13p to call Talk Sport, isn't it?
Is it?
13p a minute, which is a lot cheaper than that.
Well, that's a bargain.
I will tell you a fortune for free.
That is a bargain, believe me. Wow, if I was only paying 13p a minute to listen to me, I'd be on the phone all day.
They're not paid to listen to you.
What?
That's if they actually call up.
Oh, I see.
Mind you, they'll be listening to you then as well, so you'll be able to get a word in.
Where is my mind? Where is my mind? Where is my mind?
Now, one thing we've got to do before we get into Ask Porky, which is coming up in a little while, is we have to choose a listography for the night. Because we've got quite a few that have already come in over the course of the day.
Yes.
If you want to try and send a few more in that we can choose from, just make it hashtag listography on Twitter. But let me read you a couple of the ones that we've got. This one from Steve. 3 freaks of nature you have reported on or experienced.
Right.
One from Retro Gaming Guy. In the spirit of Euro 16, 3 favourite football songs.
Yes.
Which might work, I suppose. A couple of your 3 favourite comedians. Although Brian says you can't pick Porky, even though he's very funny.
Yeah.
3 famous people. Gary, this is one with reference to me, I suppose. 3 famous people who've told you to F off.
Yeah.
Because I've told that
that's
story
right.
about Steve Winwood the other day.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I like the 3 favourite comedians.
Okay.
I like the 3 favourite comedians. And
comedians.
that can be from childhood to
anything
right now.
They could be dead, alive.
and they can be stand-up, they can be in films or whatever.
Yeah, okay.
I like
Three
that.
favourite comedians. All right,
like
we'll
that.
do that one. So we'll do that one coming up a little bit later on in the show.
Yeah.
But do keep them coming, even if we don't pick them for any one particular night.
Yes.
Because we keep going back through the list, and
right.
I'm sure we'll get to them eventually.
Right.
Hashtag it listography, and we will get on with it.
That's right. Now, listen, you know that I once on this show, not very long ago, did my impersonation of George Formby.
Yes, you did.
Right, and I'm going to do it again.
I know why you're going to do this.
Yeah, exactly.
I know why.
I'll tell you now. Now, it's... I'm leaning on a lamppost on the corner of the street to watch a certain little lady go by. Oh, me, oh, my, there's a certain little lady going by. Now, why am I singing that now?
You're singing it because the Queen has been revealed to like a variety of different kinds of music, including George Formby.
She loves George Formby.
Which I suppose is not that surprising, really.
And the song of George Formby she most likes is Leaning on a Lamppost, and she's often heard to be humming it. How about that?
I know.
How about that?
I know. Wouldn't it be amazing if you were in the company of the Queen and she suddenly started humming George Formby?
Yeah, exactly.
Would you start singing? Or would you be...
No, I don't think you would in the company of the Queen.
Do that. She also likes quite a lot of choral music, I think, was listed, wasn't it? And
yes.
Was it? Did I hear? Because I read, I can't remember if I read a report or heard a report. She also likes, does she not, something like Gary Barlow?
Well, let me tell you, this is a great story which you and I can get immersed in. Not only does she like Gary Barlow, but guess who is going to actually present to the nation exactly what the Queen likes in a show called Our Queen 90 Musical Years on Radio 2 on this coming Sunday.
Don't tell me it's Chris Evans.
No, it's Eve Pollard.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
Oh, Lady Eve.
Lady Eve.
Superb.
And Eve, of course, is an old colleague of ours.
Well, she's a former boss of mine, really. I mean, I would call her that because when I was freelance in America, I used to do loads of stuff for the Sunday Express.
Sure. Oh, yeah, I see what you mean, yeah. So she'd commission you to do stuff.
Yeah.
Well, she was never a former boss of mine, but, of course, her husband, Sir Nicholas, was my boss at the Express for like 5 years.
Yeah.
And I was his news editor. It's a very close relationship. And Eve often had, should we say diplomatically, a few suggestions to throw into the sort of pot.
Indeed.
Despite the fact she was editor of the Sunday Express, but they were always welcome suggestions, of course. But then on one occasion, she rang me up on the Saturday and said, "Hello, Michael, Eve here. How are you, darling?" It was very
She
much
was
like
quite
that.
theatrical.
She was very theatrical.
Lovely woman, though.
Oh, lovely woman, and massively attractive woman.
Yeah.
Hugely attractive woman. Well, well, even today she's a very attractive woman, but in her younger days she had men running around after her all over Fleet Street until Nicholas caught her, of course, and they had an extremely happy marriage and still have one. Now, what I was going to say is this. She rang me up. "Hello, Michael. How are you, darling? Oh, now, could you do me a favour today?" Anyway, what I had to do was, because she was working...
She was one of those people that it was very difficult to say no to.
Oh, absolutely,
I think would be the best way of putting it.
For a lot of reasons. But one of them because she was a powerful figure in Fleet Street.
Yeah.
In fact, her and Nick were the Fleet Street...
power couple.
Power couple, absolutely. They had two separate jets.
And she'd also been editor of the Sunday Mirror before that, hadn't she?
She had, yeah. Each with a driver and all this kind of stuff. But anyway, so she says, "Oh, a real problem with Oliver today." Now, Oliver was their son.
Yes.
And at the time, I think he was about 9.
Uh-huh.
And the problem was that Eve worked on a Saturday course because she was editor of the Sunday Mirror.
Right.
And Nicholas was supposed to take Oliver to Arsenal.
Yeah.
And because they were Arsenal fans.
This was when they were still at Highbury.
They're still at Highbury, and they lived on the hill, didn't they, at Belsize Park? Yes?
Yes, they did.
Belsize Park,
Yes.
yeah. Are you paying attention?
Yes, I am.
You are, yeah.
Sorry,
okay.
I'm just trying to answer a couple of tweets while we're talking.
Yes, okay, well, just
I have to multitask here.
Pay attention. Anyway, so what happens is, I said, "Oh, right." And she said, "So, I was wondering, Michael, if you could step in for me. What's the problem?" So Nick had to play golf.
Yeah, right.
So
had to.
Well, I think he gave us some old waffle about it's on behalf of Express newspapers and all this kind of stuff. I've got to be there at Woburn Abbey, which is his club.
Yes.
So the chauffeur-driven Jag turns up. I was living in Stockbroker Belt in those days, but not in the same place.
Oh, so they came all the way down there to get.
Oh yeah, down to Banstead. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. So he turns up in the old chauffeur-driven Jag. And then we go back to Belsize Park, pick up Oliver, who was 9, and off to Highbury with the 2 season
What
tickets.
a delightful day out for him that must have been.
Well, exactly. It's one of it. Anyway, sort of, 9-year-old kids, their patience sometimes wanders, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
it must be difficult for you, not being a parent, to have a conversation with a 9-year-old kid.
Well, I just said, what can I buy you? You want a hot dog?
That's what I mean.
Want this one, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, so after about 30 minutes of the game, as young kids do, he got bored and said, I'm just going to the loo.
Right.
And I said, oh, well, hang on, I better come with you.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't know whether you did that with a 9-year-old kid or not, you know. He said, no. He said,
well, that's what I mean.
Right.
I mean, it's a rather unfortunate sort of responsibility to have to hand you.
Yeah. So he said, no, it's all right, don't worry, I'll go on my own.
Right.
And he went.
Right.
And by half-time, he hadn't come back.
Oh, dear. How long was that then? He was missing?
15 minutes.
Right, that's a long time.
And then at half-time, in a crowded football stadium, there are so many people about.
Yeah.
How do you find a 9-year-old boy?
I know.
And by the end of half-time, I still haven't found him. There were no mobile phones in those days. I thought, how am I going to tell the wife of my boss I've lost her only child?
It doesn't bear thinking about.
Honest to God.
You must have been terrified.
I was. I didn't know what to do. I thought I didn't know whether to call the police.
And I know that. I mean, there is no worse feeling in the world.
Yeah.
And you would have had this experience as well.
Yes.
Because you can't do anything.
No, exactly.
I mean, it's happened to me a couple of times where for sort of a few minutes, I mean, we've lost one of our kids.
Oh, yeah, terrible.
I mean, when we were in Turkey, we lost one of them.
Oh, it's terrible. It's a terrible feeling.
Swimming pool area.
Oh, it's a terrible feeling.
And we knew that he couldn't have gone far. And it was like he couldn't get out of the camp.
No, but it's cold, blind panic, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. You know, because after a while, you're thinking, I'm going to find him floating in the water.
Oh, it's terrible.
His head coming down a slide.
It's terrible.
I mean, what are you going to do?
It's terrible. What
happened then?
I'll tell you a sec. When my nephew Tom was about 4, I was put in charge of him down at my other sister's house when they were visiting.
Yeah.
And it's in Stockbroker Belt, and it doesn't have real fences around the houses, it just has little hedges.
Right.
And I turned my back for a minute, and I turned around, he'd just disappeared. Yeah. I was in a cold blind panic. I was the only one in the house with him.
Yeah.
The rest of the family had gone off to the garden centre.
I'm amazed they would have left you in charge.
Well, exactly. And do you know what? I looked around for 5 minutes. I was crying.
Yeah.
Tears were rushing down my face. I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
And then he stuck his head out of a hedge about 100 yards down the road, literally.
Right.
He'd just gone exploring, you know. But anyway, getting back to... anyway.
Yes.
So, you know...
Do you remember who Arsenal were playing even?
No, they weren't playing Everton, or else I'd have been gone myself anyway.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, just as the second half started, to my immense relief...
Yeah.
All of a sudden, he turned up again
at
the end of the row, and everybody had to get up. And he shook my hand. I said, "Oh my God, where have you been?" He said, "What's the problem?" And I said, "Well, I don't know where you were. You know, you can't shout at the ball, you know." And I said, "I think you should go wandering off again," and all that kind of stuff. Anyway,
so had you just been queuing up or something?
He just said he'd just been to have a look around, you know, that's all he said. I think he'd been running up and down the stairs, to be honest, I don't know. But anyway, point of my story is this. At the end of the game, we rendezvous with the old chauffeur again, back to the Mirror Building. That was the one on the Circle.
Yes, which is now Sainsbury's headquarters.
Now Sainsbury's headquarters.
Holborn Circus.
Holborn Circus, thank you.
Yeah.
And it was a fantastically impressive building. It had the words Mirror in about...
It was a great building.
20 high-foot letters.
Yeah.
It was a fantastic building, glass building.
Right. That was the one where Maxwell had his private lift, wasn't it?
He had a private lift, and he had a...
Was that when Maxwell was in charge?
Yes, Maxwell was in charge, because he appointed Eve when he took over. Yeah. And he had a helicopter pad on the roof, but he had a penthouse at the top of the building. Right. You're absolutely right, yeah. And a most impressive glass building. It's the most impressive building, just off Fleet Street. Anyway, so we go back, and... I'd never worked for a Sunday paper, really. Yeah. I'd done some shifts for them on a Saturday when I worked for the Evening Mail and all that kind of stuff. But she said, "Oh, no, come in." So into her office, the most lavish spread. It was Saturday, it was 6 o'clock, the paper was away.
That. Yeah, I remember that.
And I mean, it was a banquet.
Yeah.
And as much booze as you wanted.
Yeah.
And all the Mirror executives were already K-lights from about 4:30 in the afternoon, you know, when they really...
Well, because you tended not to go out for lunch on a Saturday,
exactly,
it's the one day that you're actually production is working. So they would, I mean, expect you to do that as well. Yeah. Bring in amazing amounts of food catered for by, you know, either a massive company outside or the people inside. Amazing.
Absolutely. And fortunately, I said to Oliver in the car back, I said, "Now, don't say anything about you disappearing." He said, "Well, I didn't disappear," you know, and that kind of stuff. Anyway, to finish this story, about a month ago, Monsieur Brazil is in the place on Whitehall, the banqueting houses.
Oh, yeah, okay.
He's at some function there. Some guy taps him on the shoulder, and he said, "Oh, you're on Brazil, yeah. You work with a friend of mine." I said, "Who's that?" "Mike Parry, Porky Parry." He said, "Yeah, who are you?" He said, "My name's Oliver Lloyd."
Oh, yeah.
And he's 40 years of age.
He's in PR now, isn't he?
I think so, yeah.
He's in financial PR.
Absolutely, yeah. It was the most amazing thing. I hadn't seen or spoken to the boy
for... Is he 40 now?
40.
Blimey.
Yeah, seen a boy for... well, I think he was 40. I think he said 36, 38.
Yeah, no, that could well be true.
Yeah,
I mean, I remember having dinner with him and his mother and his father and his sister.
Yes.
Who, of course, has gone on to do all sorts of things.
Who is... the TV presenter, Claudia Winkleman.
Claudia Winkleman, yeah.
Yes, that's right.
And she was 18 at the time, and I think he was about He was probably not much different in the age that you've just described.
That's right.
9 or 10 or something. Like
yeah, that's right. Yeah,
that sounds old, doesn't it?
So is that 30 years ago?
Yeah, it must be, because it's in New York.
Yeah, well, there you go. Yeah, absolutely, you see.
That's frightening.
You're amazing.
Where Mr. Parry answers as many questions as he can in a time of about 10 minutes, trying to give as much assistance, help.
I will change your life.
Wit and wisdom as he can possibly get through.
Yeah.
Lots and lots of...
I will make your life better.
Yeah, lots and lots of questions have come in, and if you haven't had one answered yet, you probably won't get one answered now if you haven't sent it in.
I'm here to help.
We're going to start off now with Pierre, who sent this in on Facebook. Dear Porky, my wife hates football. I've been trying for years to get her interested, but no luck. How can I get her into it? Please help. The Euros start this week, and it could save summer and help our relationship.
I don't think you can. I don't think if a lady's not interested in football, you can't get her interested. Now, what you mustn't do is try the old sexism trick of, look at David Ginola, isn't he a lovely-looking guy and all that.
It's not a good choice at the moment, is it?
Well, not a very good choice. I hope David's getting better, by the way. But you understand exactly what I'm saying. Don't try and, convince your wife that, all footballers are good-looking, therefore, you can look at their muscly legs and all that. That doesn't work. What you should do, as a good husband, is it husband or boyfriend? What is it?
Wife, I believe.
Yeah, okay. So husband's a good husband. What you should do is you should say, look, I'm going to be a bit of a bore over the next 3 weeks. It's football. I like watching it. I don't expect you to sit there next to me. And also, I can understand your resentment in a lot of my time being given over to watching my favourite sport, football. So what I'm doing is I'm paying for you and your best friend to go away to a pampering weekend at the most expensive hotel in the area, and that will put your wife in a very good mood because you've been kind, care, considerate. She'll then let you watch the football in peace.
How about this one from Stephen on Facebook? I have a bottle of Dom Perignon that's been in my fridge for 10 years. Yeah. Is it still drinkable? What on earth are you doing keeping it for 10 years?
Yeah, I would say my experience probably not. And the reason why I say that is that I'm not a champagne drinker, so I wouldn't know whether it tasted any good or not. I just don't like the bubbles. It plays on the 1/3 of my heart that still works. Now then, what I want to say is that I laid down some red wine in my apartment in Gosport when I first got there 10 years ago. And I have to say, when I opened it, it was undrinkable. So I don't know whether this laying down of wine and spirits and all that
I would have thought the
works.
champagne should be OK, but I'm not being asked the question, so I can't give an opinion.
No, what I would say is the only way you're going to find out is to open it. But I'll tell you what I would have. I'd have a spare bottle in the fridge, mate, bought yesterday, just in case. OK,
Roy says this, with the pending disaster of Trump or Clinton, where should I go, icy Canada or hot Mexico before the wall is built? He lives in America. Obviously.
Yes, that's right. I'd go to icy Canada. I think Canada's a land of opportunity. It's a beautiful country. It doesn't have a lot of stress and tension in terms of, being a world terrorist target or imminent financial collapse, whereas Mexico is constantly on the brink of, financial chaos. It's a massively expanding country in terms of population. It's a country where a great deal of the wealth remains in the hands of a very small percentage of the population. I'd prefer Canada.
Patrick says this, if TalkSport introduced a 6-strike system like Sports Direct, which of you would be fired first? Now, I don't know whether you know about the 6-strike system. This is, where you get punished for turning up late for work.
Yeah, sure.
Being in the toilet too long.
Yeah.
Generally, arriving bladdered, that kind of thing.
Yes, I think you'll find you cannot compare. The thing is that the good people who work for Sports Direct are people who are employed for their skills as labourers or suppliers or shelf stackers or storers or shop assistants or whatever. Here at TalkSport, a good deal of us are employed for our creative ability. And with creative ability comes eccentricity and also a penchant not to follow a penchant, not to follow a pattern. So therefore, we are somewhat broader-minded in our thinking about not breaking the rules, but perhaps not meeting every rule in the rule book.
OK. How about this from Aaron? He says, Porky, your perfect sandwich, please. What ingredients does it contain? I want detail. Mayo or butter, white or brown, a sprinkling of salt or a drizzling of sweet chilli sauce. Let the nation know.
OK. It's quite simple. A fresh baguette from the Co-op, because I like the baguettes they cook there.
Well, you don't have to get it from the Co-op.
Yeah, I do. I like the baguettes from the Co-op. I like them very much.
Co-op?
Yeah, they have their own bakeries.
Yeah.
Then you cut it down the middle, and you lavish it with frozen butter from the fridge.
And I get frozen in the fridge.
Hey?
How does it get frozen in the fridge?
No, cold butter, not frozen butter. Sorry, cold butter from the fridge.
Yes.
My preference on butter is Danish Lurpak. No, is that bacon?
No, Lurpak is butter.
Lurpak is butter, yeah, that's right.
You can get Danish bacon as well.
OK, Danish Lurpak butter. I like to spread that on as thickly as possible. Then, very lean ham. I know that I've mentioned lean ham before, and some people think it's a bit of a joke, but I love lean ham. So I buy the... Stop laughing. I buy the very best ham, OK?
And no, you don't. You buy the worst ham.
I don't.
Where do you buy it from?
I buy it from the ham counter in...
the ham counter?
Yeah, in Morrison's. Yeah, no,
so
I do.
You buy it from the ham... So you've already been to the Co-op and Morrison's?
Yeah, well,
to get your sandwich.
Well, it'd be different times of the day. I've been these places.
Yeah,
okay,
absolutely.
And the ham counter, the man actually slices it in front of me. It's beautiful. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And then I like that with some mild cheddar cheese.
Okay.
Okay.
Where'd you get that from? Cheddar counter.
No, I get that from Tesco.
Oh, so there's three.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Three different... Yeah, I mean, to be fair, you are being very generous spreading around the wealth.
That's right,
to all these various top brand supermarkets.
Yeah, and I put that in my baguette with the thick Lurpak butter and the ham and the cheese, and then I put a load of black pepper on it.
All right, no salt?
No salt, because the salt's already in the ham, I find.
Where do you get the black pepper from?
From a pepper grinder, which I have at home.
All right.
A big one.
Okay.
And then I eat it, and it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. How about this one from Lee? Should I give up secure job and risk going self-employed and risk the unknown? I'm a joiner, stroke handyman.
Yes, without a shadow of a doubt, you should, because there is safety in having an employer, because you're not taking the risk, he's taking the risk employing you, and you get your wage. However, if you want to be something in life, you've got to go and do it on your own. And what you do is you take on as much work as you possibly can, and when you've got a few bob put by, then you subcontract. You take on even more work, but you haven't got time to do it, so what you do is you pay somebody else to do it. Do you understand? But what happens is you charge the person who you're doing the job for £10 an hour, but you only pay the joiner that you employ £7.50 an hour. Therefore, with all costs taken into consideration, you make £2 an hour yourself. Now, you multiply that by 50 joiners. As you build up your firm, you'll be making a substantial amount of money and you'll become a millionaire.
OK. This is from Derek in Pencoed, who sent in and asked Porky for the first time.
Pencoed?
He says, I've been told that I'm too loyal and trusting, that I'm always thinking of other people. Should I stop and start thinking of myself?
Yes, definitely, because if you don't, you get taken for a mug. It's happened to me a number of times in my life when I have wanted, really, to help people out, just because I have either felt sorry for them or I felt that as a friend I have an obligation. Certainly as a family member, I would always help my family out, but my family are very self-sufficient, so that's not been a great problem all my life. But helping friends out has been a priority in my life. I have done it on many, many occasions, and I have to say that if a child asked me for a bit of advice, it would be help out anybody you want as much as you like throughout your life, but don't ever, ever, ever expect to get anything back, because it rarely happens.
David says this: I have video evidence of a co-worker cheating at work. Should I release it and ruin his career and credibility?
Well, it depends on your relationship with your employer. If you think your employer is an honourable employer who runs a good company and therefore provides jobs for people, then if somebody is corrupting that by cheating and thieving, you must report them to your employer. Even if you don't think your employer is a good employer, you cannot side with illegality, and you must make representations to the worker himself and tell him to stop it or leave the company. But as I say, if you think that the employer himself is being badly done to, you take it to your employer.
Mike says this on Facebook: Porky, if the devil punishes bad people, then why is he considered evil? It's a bit deep, isn't it?
Well, that is a bit deep. All I can respond to on that is from a Christian point of view. I believe in Christianity. I believe in God. I believe that that is goodness. I believe that is the white side of life. White in the sense of white and clear and light, if you see what I mean, and the dark side of life, the devil and all that. I've only ever seen in films like The Devil Rides Out and all that, and to be honest, it frightens me a little bit if that exists. I don't want to know.
OK. What possesses people like Mike Ashley to talk about themselves in the third person, says Tex?
I don't know. I thought Ashley, was already said in the show, was very impressive in the House of Commons today. In fact, fully enough, one of the lines a lot of these sketches have printed is, I'm not Father Christmas, so that's the impression he made. I think when you're running an organisation as big as Mike Ashley, I think sometimes you do have to refer to yourself in the third person. Mike Ashley doesn't berate people who work for him. He doesn't fine people £10 because they're a minute late from coming back for their lunch. And I think that's perfectly acceptable, because if he kept saying I, he's actually, turn the story around on himself, whereas he's really talking about his own company, which is Mike Ashley.
Zlatan does it as well a lot, doesn't he?
Yes.
James says this on Twitter. What are the best pliers to use to cut off a telephone receiver in a public phone box, please?
Well, that's an obvious question. I mean, the pliers...
I'm not sure you want to answer that because you might be encouraging vandalism.
No. It's a simple question, cutting through a wire. The best pliers are those that, have, like, molar grips at the end, but between the handle and the end, the molar grips... excuse me, they have like a blade device, which is for cutting wire. It's quite as simple as that.
All right. Now, this is a bit of a difficult one, and I don't want you to take it the wrong way, from Cole. He said, I would like to ask why listening to two old men bicker and insult one another on national radio is such compulsive listening. Interesting question.
Yeah, I can't answer that. I really can't. I mean, first of all, I've never listened to a programme where two old men are bickering, so I don't know. I've no idea what it sounds like.
Good answer.
I didn't know there was a programme around that had that sort of constitution about it. The way that Mr. Graham and I do it is, two men moving into early middle age do discuss values in life and sometimes don't always agree on the outcome.
Indeed. Very good answer. Nathan says this, Porky, for being a water zodiac sign and massive Chelsea fan, like yourself, I only wear blue shirts I can't bear the thought of red due to other football rivals. Can you please let me know where you mainly shop for your shirts and what are your favourite brands, as I admire your expert proclivity in fine clothes?
Well, that's very good of you. Sometimes I shop for my shirts in Jermyn Street, believe it or not, or the West End, if I happen to be in town and I'm doing things and I've had a few drinks and decide I need some, better clothes. However, on a daily basis, for what I would call my working clothes or day-to-day clothes, I would probably go to Debenhams. I would certainly go to Marks and Spencer's because I am a big fan of their products. I used to go to British Home Stores, actually, but I think they've closed down.
They have.
And I will also...
You obviously didn't go there often enough.
No, I didn't go there often enough. I also go to places like...
what about Sports Direct?
No, not really.
That's where you got your Pierre Cardin shirt, isn't it?
No, I didn't, honestly. No, I didn't.
People have been posting Pierre Cardin shirts all day, available in Sports Direct.
I didn't get one there. The other place I would shop would probably be somewhere like, for instance... Is Burton's still going?
Burton's? I don't think so.
Yeah, I think it is.
Is it?
Or men. Top men.
Top man.
Top man. That's him.
Don't know. I've never got. That's cheap rubbish.
Which I think is owned by Sir Philip Green, who owned BHS.
Yeah. He's another one on the rack, isn't he? Final question from Danny. My mates, having not listened to your show, do not want to come with me to your live show in Rugby. How can I persuade them to come so I'm not turning up on my own?
Well, what you should do is put them on to Two Mikes TV, and they can then see some clips from our previous live shows. They will be so enthralled that they will come, believe me, just to find out what it's all about. However, if they still don't come, just tell them to get lost and turn up at the show on your own, because, believe me, it'll be a night of bladderation. You'll be very welcome. And the Porky family, or the Two Mikes family, I should say, Two Mikes family, will...
that was a bit of a faux pas.
Will wrap themselves around you and draw you into the wonderful world of MG and Porky.
Yeah, you don't want those nasty Porky tribe types.
No, we don't. No, don't want them.
Don't want any of them.
No.
That was Ask Porky. There'll be one again next week.
No use crying forever, you
There's been a new study done by Oxford University and another university in the US, I think, University of Australia, University of Queensland, suggesting that some tropical fish might actually be able to recognise human faces. Now, we're going to talk to Ilana Bram, who's a fish trainer for r2fishschool.com. Ilana, very good morning to you. Welcome to the show.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
Yeah, very well. Very well indeed. This is pretty groundbreaking stuff, isn't it, about fish?
Well, it depends how you look at it. So what they did in the study is they took a picture of a human face, and they taught the fish that if they spit on the face, they'll get a pellet of food.
Right.
Right? And once they learned this task, they started to add other faces. And the fish would only get a pellet if they spat on the right face. Mm-hmm. And they did this until they were showing the fish 45 different faces, and the fish was able to spit consistently on the right one. Mm-hmm. So with everything that we do to them, maybe it's kind of right that we're learning about their intelligence by having them spit on our faces. But
sure.
But
up until now, I suppose it wasn't thought that they could recognise necessarily. I mean, obviously they'd have to be able to recognise certain things in order to swim around and know where to go. But this is the first time this kind of thing's been realised, right?
Yes, and that is really cool because they haven't really studied that before. But I don't think it's so surprising that fish can recognize faces. It's not a unique human skill. Like dogs can recognize faces, crows can recognize faces, chickens, wasps can recognize each other's faces.
Right.
Which is pretty neat because I have a hard time recognizing people's faces.
Sometimes you can see somebody from afar and think that it's somebody that you know, and in fact it turns out not to be. I mean, are they sort of? I mean, were the faces that they were shown significantly different, if you like?
The unique thing about this study was that they were able to show faces that are very similar to each other, but the fish were still able to recognize the difference. Mm-hmm. So they were very accurate in how clearly they recognized the face. Mm-hmm. If you've had a pet fish, you probably see that they can recognize you when you come into the room. I had a pet fish that I trained to do tricks, and every time I went into the room, he would recognize me for sure. But one time I went on vacation and I had my friend fish sit for me, and it took days before my fish was able to go out of his bunker and swim around because he could recognize that it was a different person.
Yeah, Ilona, I was going to ask you this. Although this is a major development, and I'm very interested in it, what is the benefit to us as humans to have fish recognise faces? Where can that practically help us develop a relationship between natural science, fish, and humans?
I think that the biggest place that science is looking at right now is more like face recognition software, that kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
If you can figure out how, so if you could, so it seems to be a pretty simple mechanism of pattern recognition. And if a fish can do it, or if a wasp can do it, then maybe you can try to figure out how they do it and let the computer do it. Because that's one of the most difficult things for AI to figure out, I think.
So you're saying that by doing this research into fish recognising human faces, it could literally lead to improved security at airports by facial recognition through security gates?
It's possible.
Yeah, well, that's very
taking it, but.
Now, this is a particular type of fish. It's an archer fish that was used in this experiment. Yes. Does that mean that it's possible that there will be other types of fish that can do it? Because otherwise it would be really unusual if it was only one kind of fish that could do this.
Yes, I think so. I think that there's a lot we don't know about fish, and we kind of underestimate them.
I'm sure you're right. Now, Ilona, can I ask you this, please? We recently had another expert on this show who told us that fish are able to recognise the different sounds of music by hitting sensors within their fish tank to make noises which then travel through water. Now, this is a revelation to somebody like me because I'd always believed for years that, goldfish and other fish only had a memory retention of about 3 seconds, and therefore it wasn't cruel to keep fish in aquariums or to keep them in goldfish bowls on a table in the hallway of your house. But if this is the case, if fish are now seen to be highly intelligent, able to recognise different faces, able to recognise musical sounds, then haven't we got to rethink altogether the idea of keeping fish in captivity?
Well, I think so. If you look at a goldfish, for example, it's one of the only animals that live a lot less long in captivity than it does in the wild.
Right.
Usually when you keep an animal captive, it ends up living a lot longer because it doesn't have predators and doesn't have to worry about food. They can live like 20 to 40 years. I think the maximum was 43 years. And when we keep them as pets, they usually live no more than 10 years. So there's definitely quality of life issues for them.
Yeah, there certainly is. I think it's absolutely disgraceful. But, I mean, surely the fish go mad, don't they? If they're only swimming around in a goldfish bowl for all of their life when they were actually developed as a species to be able to swim endlessly for miles and miles and miles in rivers and ponds and all that. This is a very, very cruel concept, which we're surely only just coming to terms with.
Yeah, and I think it also depends on the type of fish. So a fish that really does swim for miles and miles and miles will suffer a lot more in a small tank than a fish that usually just has a really small territory, like a little reef fish that protects that one tiny space. And it also depends what kind of mental stimulation you're giving the fish and what kind of water conditions you're giving the fish.
I agree. But still, if you're swimming around an aquarium tank, even if you put a few rocks in it and a few, coloured, bits of fauna and all that,
a couple of Disney characters,
it's still a miserable existence in my view and should be banned.
I tend to agree with that.
Thank you.
It's similar to the difference between
Does this study also mean...
It's the difference...
Sorry, Ilana, I was going to say, does this study also mean that science...
I think we have a delay, sorry.
Yeah, I think we do, yeah. I'll try and not mess that up.
Account for it.
Yeah, exactly. Does it mean that fish will now be kind of regarded slightly differently by those who study the animal kingdom and the way that, sort of different species of animals are more intelligent than others? I mean, are we finding out that fish are actually more intelligent than we thought?
Well, there is a recent paper in 2003 that shows, for example, that they can feel pain, and that's something we didn't think about before. But I don't think that very much has changed after we discovered this, because I think the incentives are usually about making money. We don't hurt fish because we hate fish. We hurt fish because we're trying to make money off of them. So, there's that part of it. And then when you're asking if fish are smart, it's really, you're asking two things. You're asking, what does smart mean, and what does a fish mean? Because there's really no such thing as a fish. The things that we call fish, there's certain groups that are very different from each other. It would be as if you said that mammals and birds and reptiles are all in one group.
Right.
So a goldfish and a shark, they're both fish, but they're as different as like a rabbit or a turtle.
Sure.
No,
I think that's
so
right.
We live on land, and
It's fascinating
and we look
stuff.
at things that are in the and we look at things in the water, and you say, okay, you're a wiggly thing with a lot of legs, and you're a snail, and you're a turtle. Everything else, you're fish. It's like a definition by exclusion. You breathe underwater, and you have gills, you have limbs. Therefore, you're a fish. It's a very broad category. So, fish are smart, and some fish are smarter than other fish. It's hard to say, are fish smart?
Yes, I think that's absolutely right. Ilana, thank you very much indeed. Ilana Param there from r2fishschool.com on how different fish are and how they can now recognise faces. And that is kind of an interesting thing as well, isn't it? That they could get facial recognition science from a fish.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, you think they get facial recognition from just human facial recognition?
Well, I mean, that's why I asked the killer question there. What is this all about? Why are we doing this? Why are we impressed?
The killer question.
Yes, that fish can recognise a human face. And then, of course, the good doctor, Ilana Brahm, fish trainer for r2fishschool.com. I think she's a scientist. She's a scientist.
Doesn't make her a doctor.
Actually says to me, well, it's for facial recognition and you can develop that into security services. So I got to the core of the issue there. But the more I hear about this, the more determined I am now to get rid of zoos and goldfish bowls.
Really?
Goldfish bowls now have to be banned.
Really?
Without a shadow of a doubt. Now that we know that fish are highly intelligent creatures who can recognise different faces, who can recognise the sound of musical notes, we've got to ban goldfish bowls.
Well, where are you going to put goldfish then?
What?
Where are you going to put
We're not
goldfish?
going to have them. We're going to have captive goldfish.
So what, goldfish is going to swim around, in rivers?
Yeah, goldfish are going to swim around their natural habitat, which are ponds and rivers. Yeah,
okay.
That's right.
All right.
That's right.
Maybe
Absolutely.
they'll grow into great big koi carp.
Or
maybe they'll all get eaten.
The idea that you're going to bring one home from the fair in a plastic bag in future. If I went to a fair now and saw them, I'd rip open all the bags and free them.
Free them how?
Well, free them, put them somewhere else.
What, into the ground?
Not into the ground, because
That's
they die without water.
I've never seen fish at a fair for a long time. I think they've stopped doing it.
I think they probably have as well, but nevertheless, it's very cruel.
I'm going to tell you coming up very shortly.
But you've had stories on this show about your goldfish ending up face down in their bowl.
Well, yeah, they die.
Yeah, because they die of boredom.
Everything dies.
And they become insane.
You'll die one day,
No, they become insane. You drive them insane for the cruel way in which you keep them captive.
You drive me insane. I think that's the problem.
Yeah, well, that's irrelevant.
we are The Two Mikes. You can tweet us at The Two Mikes. You can find us on Facebook, of course, as well. Mike Parry's Twitter is at Mike Parry8, and mine is at IROMG. Quite a few people are saying that James Watt invented the steam engine, Bob's being one of them, and also an Englishman called Thomas Savery, back in something like 1698, is apparently credited with inventing the first steam engine, along with a Spanish guy called Jerónimo de Ayans, thought to be the first person to invent a steam-run machine to actually clear water out of mines.
You forget all that, mate.
So I don't think it was your man Stevenson at all.
It was my man Stevenson.
Well, maybe the steam train he invented.
No, he didn't.
Are you sure?
He invented the steam engine.
Okay. Now, we're going to do listography a little bit later on, maybe in the next hour.
Yes.
So if you wish to nominate some things that you want us to talk about, 3 things, and we've already got quite a few that have come in. Do you want me to read you a few that we've got?
Yes, please.
One from Chad, who says 3 items in your house you never use but still keep, which is quite interesting. List 3 worst traits or habits of each other.
Right.
Which is possibly a little bit personal.
Yeah.
With the US Open...
might also end up with us coming to blows.
That's true. With the US Open coming up, how about the 3 best golf courses you've both played? Well, that wouldn't really work for Porky because he hasn't really played any decent golf courses.
Oh, really? Yeah.
How about this?
Only like Royal Lytham St Anne's, you know.
3 career highlights.
Like St George's,
3 favourite board games.
3 favourite board games.
And let's see. 3 favourite football players, UK or worldwide, of all time.
Right, yeah. That's a bit wide ranging.
That is a bit wide ranging, isn't it?
And the board games, I couldn't compete in that one because I don't play board games.
Yeah, but you must have played them when you were a child.
Yeah, but I never liked them. They were always...
You never liked any board games?
Well, I hated sitting around a table, with other boring people and...
well, presumably there wasn't a chair for you around the table. You had to sit on a stool or something.
Having to go through this ridiculous momentum of shaking a dice in a cup and it rolling out and all that. Yeah, I found it...
The ridiculous momentum of shaking a dice in a cup.
Yeah, I found it intensely boring.
Well, what did you play as a child, then?
Sorry?
What did you play as a child?
Well, I like things that, where I was on top of things all the time. The trouble with the board game is you only get to have a go once every 4 times, and then you have to watch everybody else having a go.
Well,
I don't like those sort of games.
Playing against other people.
Yeah, I don't like that. I like the...
How very odd you are.
No, I like the scale extricts where I can just, muller my opponent in a space of a couple of minutes, just by being better than him on the old hand control, you know what I mean?
Did you never lose at scale extrict?
Never.
Really?
Never. The reason why was from a very, very early age, I worked out that when you come to a hairpin bend, slow down, and then your car doesn't come flying off the track.
Right.
Whereas every other thick kid...
Well, most people worked that out, didn't they?
No. Every other thick kid I raced against, they just put their thumb right down on the trigger and just, went off, and I knew they'd come off. I didn't mind. I used to practice a bit of the old hare and tortoise approach to scale extra.
Oh, yeah.
Because I knew that they would...
so you would go around slower?
Yeah, exactly. And I knew that they'd go too fast and come spinning off at the hairpin bend, which always happened.
Oh, OK.
Yeah.
Gareth says, how about your 3 favourite albums? You could try that.
Yeah,
Yours
could
would all
do.
be greatest hits, though. Wouldn't you want to do 3 favourite albums?
Well, you're absolutely right. That might end up as favourite hits. I mean, let's give it another... let's give it till the top of the hour.
OK.
Which is another 13 minutes, right?
OK.
To receive more nominations,
Mike
please.
says Thomas Savery and Edward Somerset invented the steam engine.
Well, now we've had about 15 different nominations for people who invented the steam engine.
Well,
okay?
I think it was a process because, I mean, this Spanish guy whose name I said earlier, Jerónimo,
yes.
He invented the first kind of steam-powered device, which basically he used in a mine to pump water out.
Yeah, well, maybe he did, but I said steam engine, right? I'll read this to you again. George Stephenson, the Northumberland-born engineer, so he wasn't from a Glasgow hovel, it was more like a Newcastle hovel, Why, hey, man.
Why would it have to be a hovel?
Well, they were hovels in 1791.
Yeah.
Every house in Britain was a hovel except for stately homes, right? If you didn't live in a stately home, you didn't have any shoes and you lived in a hovel. Right. Known
as...
So
does it say that he invented the steam engine or did he invent the steam-driven train?
He invented the steam-driven train,
right?
Because he's known as the father of the railway.
That's right. So he didn't invent the steam engine then?
Well, he did because he is famous for being the man who recognised the lid coming off the kettle, and he turned that into a railway engine. Okay,
all right.
I mean, you see these massive old great machines with huge sort of pipes for chimneys and huge wheels and all that kind of stuff and pistons going round.
Yeah.
That's what he invented.
But that's what I'm saying. But I mean, so he invented the first steam train, effectively. But steam engines had been used for other things before that.
Well, they'd been used to pump out water in mines in Cornwall, but that was all.
Yeah, so, I mean, like, for example, Dennis Papin, who's a French-born British physicist, invented the pressure cooker.
Yeah.
Papin's ideas surrounding a cylinder and piston steam engine had not previously been used to build a working engine. Yeah. But Savary then turned it into a working engine in 1705. So it's all a process of kind of evolution.
I think it is. The width of of much of the world's railways tracks is the standard gauge of 4 foot 8.5 inches. Which was chosen by Stephenson when he built the world's first intercity railway.
Because there was two, wasn't there?
Between Liverpool and Manchester in 1830. I think Brunel invented the other one.
Brunel actually had a different size.
Gauge.
And it didn't work, so he had to get rid of it.
It was much wider. It was nearly 8 feet, I think. It was huge.
Yeah, so that one, it was a bit like VHS and Betamax.
That's right, it was, yeah.
And his was the Betamax version. He lost out.
And who was it? Sky and what was the other TV company? British Satellite Broadcasting. That's
BSB.
right, Sky and BSB.
Yeah.
And one had the Sky dish, and the other one had a square disc which you put up on your wall.
Which didn't work at all.
It didn't work at all. Within a few months, Sky dominated, and that's why it's now called. For a while, Sky was called B-Sky B. Because it amalgamated with the British Satellite Broadcasting.
That's right.
Yeah,
exactly. Roy says this: fish may recognise people, but will Porky recognise the fish when they're covered in batter?
Well,
#table for one.
Look, you have to understand, we're talking here about beautiful coloured fish and goldfish and all that.
So you're not going to stop eating fish?
No, of course not, because what ends up on your plate is a huge, net load of fish pulled out of the North Sea. And that's their...
Or somewhere else.
That is their fate. That is their fate. That's what they're there for.
So you don't mind those fish being killed?
No, of course not, because that's...
It's just fish being bored you're upset about?
Yes, I am.
Right.
It's
so as long as they have an interesting short life, you're happy with that?
Well, it's part of the food chain. When a fish is swimming around in the North Sea and it suddenly realises that the momentum of its body is upwards with a load of other fish, it's then dumped onto the back deck of a trawler. Well, it's only got seconds to live anyway, so, that's kind.
Is it?
I tell you what I saw a picture of today. Saw a picture of...
I think there's a bit of an inconsistency in your fishing argument.
No. I saw a picture of an osprey swooping on the River Tweed and lifting a trout out of the water and taking it off for its lunch. Can you imagine how frightened that trout must have been?
Probably terrified.
I was going to say.
But that's the problem with putting fish back into their natural, what you call their natural environment. You put goldfish back into rivers, and they become slightly bigger. They might become sort of, like those larger koi carp that you're talking about. And then they'll get carried off by an osprey. Well, I think they might be happier in a goldfish bowl.
No, it's part of the food chain. They'd rather take their chances in the wild and real world than...
Well, you can't ask them, can you?
Swim around in a goldfish bowl all the time.
You can't ask them that.
Well, we're starting to learn an awful lot about fish, so one of these days I bet you we will be able to find out exactly what sort of environment they want to grow up in.
Perhaps you could interview one.
I'm certain of it.
Porky interviews a fish.
That would be ridiculous, but I'm telling you, science will let you take indicators from these animals as to how they want their lives to be led and what does them in, you know?
Now, have you had, how you were having problems with hackery a few months back?
Hackery?
Hackery, yeah, your email account getting hacked and all that sort of thing. Did you get that all fixed up? Did you get it sorted out, is what I'm saying?
I don't know why, but this thing called Avasti comes up all the time on your screen. It says subscribe now, Avasti.
What is that?
I don't know. It's some sort of protection company that says if you pay us $34 or something, we'll make sure that nobody puts a virus in your machine and all that kind of stuff.
Right, well, it's like a pop-up advert.
Yeah. Do you not have one of those?
I don't have one of those.
Well, how come is that then? Why have they picked on me?
Well, partly because you've got a PC. Maybe because you know that. Maybe have you bought an antivirus, piece of software recently?
Well, I thought I'd paid them for it. I got my credit card and filled a few numbers in and all that.
Well, online?
To go away. Yeah, online. Yeah. But it's come back.
Well, maybe they've gone. Maybe your details have gone around the world, and people are now figuring they could actually get money out of you.
Trying to milk me.
Yeah,
it could be.
Well, I mean, which one did you get? Is that the one you got?
Avasti, it's called. Yeah.
Yeah. Is that the one you got?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Right. Well, they must be asking you to pay for probably a more sort of strong version of it or something.
I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I'll have to read it properly and find out what's going on.
And it's just coming up on your laptop.
Yes, it is, yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Well, I was going to tell you about a phone call I got today.
Oh, really?
But I haven't got time at the
Who
moment.
from?
Well, that's about hacking. I'm going to tell you about
Oh, really?
it very shortly. My phone rang at home, which it very rarely does, because my landline...
Mobile phone?
No, my landline phone.
Oh, your landline?
There's very few people actually have that number.
I didn't even know you had a landline.
Yeah, well, I don't give it to you, because nobody ring me.
No, well, you haven't
I
got
don't give
mine.
it to anyone.
No, I don't
Because
either.
I just don't use it. I mean, I basically use it to ring my mother from time to time.
I was going to say, why have you got one anyway?
Well, because really you had to have a landline to get broadband.
Yeah, well,
I mean,
that's absolutely
I think
true,
it's
yeah.
becoming now to
Yeah.
a point where you can now get broadband without actually having a landline.
Okay, go on, yeah.
But yeah, I don't really use it for anything.
Right.
And normally, if it rings, it's either somebody's got hold of it from one of these PPI
That's right.
scenarios, and
Yeah.
I just report them to Ofcom, and they stop ringing for a while.
Yeah.
But it was this person, this voice from India came on. Claims to be from my broadband operator,
Supplier, yeah.
and saying things like, Mr. Graham, it sounded very noisy in the background. It didn't sound kosher to me anyway. So I just thought, I'll let the guy talk for a while. And he started talking about how, we're getting strange pulses coming from your router, your broadband router.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, right, okay, that's unusual. And I said, well, so what would you like me to do? Because I knew it was a scam at this point. He said, well, what I'd like you to do is to get your laptop and open up your laptop and switch it on, and I'll be able to talk you through how to fix this particular problem. But obviously what they then want to do is somehow access, your laptop
Yes, that's right.
while you've got it on.
That's right, yeah.
And somehow, because this happened to me once before where they didn't do it live, but they somehow rerouted everything that I was searching for.
Right.
So I gave it about sort of 15, 20 seconds.
Yes.
And I just sort of let him have it, really.
Yeah.
And told him that I was not going to do it.
No,
I said, I know
exactly.
that you've hacked my phone number from a list that you've stolen from a broadband company.
Yeah.
So get lost.
Yeah.
In fact, I said in slightly different terms.
Yeah.
And he put the phone down.
Well, the last one I got of that...
So it's still going on.
Last one I got of that was a young lady, and you don't like to be sharp, these young ladies. It's their job, and there's somebody's paying them £7
Well, not
an
if
hour
they're criminals, you can be sharp with
Well,
them.
no. She was like, just a young lady with a northern accent like this, She said, oh, hello, is that Mr. Parry? I said, yes. She says, oh, Mr. Parry, we've identified you as a person who could possibly have been overcharged for your guarantee on, domestic purchases that you've made over the last 2 years. And
On your credit card, you mean?
She didn't say anything.
Right.
On domestic purchases over the last 2 years. I said, oh, really? I said, well, I'm not really bothered about that, thank you. Oh, let me tell you, if you pursue this, I might be able to get you a refund of £2,000.
Okay.
And I said...
Well, who was she representing then?
Well, we hadn't got round to that yet. Seriously, I could get you a refund of £2,000. And I said, I'm sorry, love. I said, but I don't need £2,000. What? I said, I don't care about £2,000. Hey? This kind of, I said, I don't want £2,000.
Right.
Don't bother me.
But they're very persistent, though.
No, she went then. She put the phone down. She realised that she was dealing with a top person.
Oh, is that right?
And decided to...
Well, that doesn't sound like a criminal enterprise.
to
That
give
just
up.
sounds like one of these, law firms or one of these,
Well, I don't know what it
PPI
was.
type
I don't know what it was. Honestly, you get these weird calls all the time. Just don't respond to them. I see now...
You get weird calls all the time. Well, like how often?
Oh, well, I don't know. I get about once a week, I suppose,
Really?
or something like that, yeah. But I notice now that PPI, in a quite straightforward advert, are putting out, the government could be about to introduce a deadline for your PPI refunds.
But that's another one of these operators that just wants more of your money.
Exactly, of course they do, yeah, because, I better rush to the PPI advert now and get me PPI refund.
But people do fall for it, though. That's the problem.
Yeah, so I suppose they do.
Who are not as smart as the average bear.
Yeah, well,
Obviously.
I am, because I've never responded to
Fortunately,
it.
you haven't, no. There will be a podcast coming out a little bit later on. A couple of people have got some advice for you, Mr. Parry, on your computer problem.
Yes.
Jeff says use Windows Defender on your PC and it's free.
Oh, yeah.
Avast is not very good. It took an age to get rid of it.
Oh.
Another guy says it crashed his computer.
Yeah.
So why did you choose that one?
I didn't. It just suddenly popped up. I didn't
really?
choose it at all.
Oh,
I don't know
okay.
how to get rid of it either. That guy said it crashed his computer. I had a problem with mine. I had to get one of the experts here from TalkSport to sort it out.
Yeah.
Because you try and pay the thing and you think, I'll just get rid of it. It's $34 on your credit card.
Yeah.
I'll just pay it, to get rid of it. But then...
You get hooked into this kind of nightmare scenario, don't you, where you think you just can't get out of this particular maelstrom.
This complicated payment method then, involves making decisions and choices, and you hit the wrong button, and all of a sudden, it's all gone, I agree.
Yeah.
You're right about the landline. When I was told I needed one, which I never used down in Gosport, never ever use it, but I was told, well, if you ever want to, call up a live fight...
Yeah.
you need the landline to do it. It has to come down the landline.
Right.
I mean, that might have been the case 8 years ago.
That may have changed. Well, this is one from
now.
Alan in Streatham. That's a poppycock, Mr. Graham. The days when the phone line was needed for broadband ended about 6 years ago, which I'm sure is right.
Yeah.
But when I was getting it at the time, that was longer ago than 6 years.
That's right.
He says, I have a broadband speed of 60 mbs, and I have no phone line. It works by the cable box, and the HTML cable plugs straight into the network box. This, as I said, all changed about 6 years ago. Well, that's fine if you've got cable, and if you've got Sky or something like that.
Yes, that's right.
But if you haven't got that, you may still need a landline.
No, well, I've got that, and I've got the cable into the building, obviously, because there isn't a satellite. Well, there's one satellite on the roof.
Well, it hasn't been flooded out by the massive rainfall.
Absolutely. Now, listen, have you ever thought about losing a bit of weight?
I do occasionally think about it,
Yeah, so do I. But I've decided that it may not always be a good idea.
I've only once ever gone on a diet. I went on a diet once in New York.
Yeah.
And because I was getting a bit too heavy,
yes.
And I thought to myself, and it was actually my then girlfriend who became my wife who said, "Well, we're going on a diet together, 1,500 calories a day."
Yeah.
Then I went to Costello's and worked out that I think that counted for about 3 vodka and grapefruit juices.
Exactly, yeah.
So I basically drank and didn't eat for about a month.
Yeah, good man. And did you lose any weight?
I think I lost a bit, but not very much.
Was that ahead of your wedding or something?
Yeah, it was before that.
Oh, was it? Okay,
It was before that.
Because what I was going to say is, I looked at a study of, dieting, what it can do to you. Have you noticed that people who've been, very heavy for a long time, they have nice full faces, and I describe your face as a full face.
A full
right?
face.
Yeah. But when they diet, although their body, becomes more attractive in the sense that they lose flab off their body, sometimes the face turns them into somebody who looks like they've caught AIDS or something.
Well, you get wrinkles, don't you?
Well, not only that, but the flesh,
wrinkles.
Flesh hangs off your face. You look, or you lose so much weight it looks pinched. I mean, do you remember the former Chancellor, Nigel Lawson?
Yes.
When he became Lord Lawson and lost a load of weight.
I think, did he not have to do that? Did he have to have a medical reason for that?
I don't know. I've no idea.
I think he had a heart attack or something,
But all I know is he looked to have aged about 20 years. And it's the same with a lot of people. I was looking through a lot of celebrity pictures of people who lose weight, even people like Posh Spice, when she goes on a diet and loses weight. They look dreadful.
She's never really been overweight, has she?
Well, no, but she still has this image in her head of, I need to lose more weight and all that kind of stuff. And some people who, for some unknown reason, keep themselves stick thin, like Mick Jagger, I think his face looks dreadful. I think it looks like the skin's taut over his bones. Well, he should do, because he's still a mass Rogerizer and he wants to look attractive to other women.
I don't think he needs to worry about how he looks, otherwise he'd have forgotten about that a long time ago.
Yeah, absolutely right. I'm Mick Jagger, you fancy a bit of horizontal refreshment, baby. And that would be it, wouldn't it, really?
I don't think they would care, to be honest.
I think you're right.
That way inclined.
I think you're right. But I do think that,
he's always been very thin. He's just one of those guys that's always been very skinny.
Yeah, he has, yeah. Well, so has the other guys, just had the twins, Ronnie Wood.
Yeah.
Right? Is it Ronnie Wood? No.
Ronnie Wood, yeah.
Is it Ronnie Wood? Yeah. He's very skinny. And a lot of these pop stars, used to take a lot of drugs. When I'm not suggesting Ronnie Wood is one, used to take a lot of drugs.
I think he would admit that he has been
in their youth.
The past.
They're very, very thin now, and it's all down to drug abuse when they were younger. The amount of drugs they took. One guy came in here from a very famous '60s group to plug a new album he made of a new range of songs that he'd written, different to the things he was famous for.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe how thin he was when he came. I mean, he's stick thin, honestly. About 6'2", 6'3", stick thin. And, somebody said to me afterwards, well, these guys were pumping their bodies so full of drugs in the 60s that they
didn't eat for years.
They didn't eat for years. They're now permanently thin, or permanently
So is this your
emaciated.
excuse for not going on a diet? You're supposed to lose some weight, though, aren't you, after Mr. Banner's advice?
The doctor has warned me that I need to. But, I've taken a much, much more responsible approach to life now. Virtually no alcohol.
Virtually
no alcohol. Fresh fruit all the time.
Fresh fruit?
Yeah, fresh fruit.
Really? You had fresh fruit today?
Yes.
What did you have?
Blackberries. Blackberries.
I didn't know they were in season.
Sorry, they weren't blackberries. They're blueberries.
Blueberries,
yeah.
I had some blueberries today.
Yeah, blueberries.
They're nice blueberries.
Yeah, blueberries.
How'd you eat them?
With yoghurt.
Yoghurt?
Yes.
Wow.
Blueberries, pineapple chunks.
Yeah, out of a tin, right?
They come out of a tin, but there's nothing wrong with that.
Why didn't you just get a pineapple?
Satsumas.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not going to cut up a pineapple.
Why
You
not?
waste so much of it.
No, you don't.
Ridiculous.
But if you get them out of a tin, then it's got loads of added sugar in it.
No, hasn't it? It's very nice.
It has, because they come in that sort of syrupy stuff.
Yeah, but you drain that off. Satsumas,
Right.
I had a load of Satsumas
Fresh
today.
Satsumas?
Fresh Satsumas from Morrison's.
Weren't you supposed to be showing us how you could peel one of those without actually breaking the skin?
Well,
in some way.
No, you do break the skin, but you can peel
only
it
in one
one
place.
Peel it in one, yeah. Yeah, it's easy.
Are you going to ever show us that on so we can film it for too much TV?
I think I've done it, I think when you and I worked together a couple of years ago, I'm sure I did it.
Really?
I'm sure it's on
film
film
we need
somewhere.
to shoot it again.
But I will do
it
again, yeah. No, the point about the weight loss is you will find that skin hangs off your face and all that kind of stuff. And some people simply don't look good thinner. I'm trying to think of somebody else who was famous who went terribly thin and lost a load of weight and they looked dreadful. But certainly Nigel Lawson's one I always think of.
Yeah, sure. Peru have just scored against Ecuador.
Oh, really?
It's now 1-0 to Peru. It's in the Copa America, 5 minutes gone.
Right, now we're going to see some Peruvian fans.
They might show some fans.
Do you not remember that we reckoned that the Peruvian fans were a very attractive race of people?
They were nominated. There was the Paraguayans that you liked first.
That's right.
And then you moved on to the Peruvians.
That's
so
right.
Sure, if you keep your eyes peeled, you might see some of it.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Craig says this, if Porky put his credit card details into a pop-up, he's not as smart as the dopiest bear.
I didn't put my credit card details into anything.
I thought you said you paid for the the protection for your PC with the credit card.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, in some way, but I can't remember how I paid for it. It was years ago. It was 3 years ago. Now,
was it?
Now the contract's run out. Now you pay for it again. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Unfortunate that. Now, should we decide on the listography because we could do that coming up very very shortly.
Yes. Okay.
Did you like the idea of the railway journeys? Best 3 wonders of the world is another one from Phil.
I thought it was going to be the
3 oldest things that you've got.
3 oldest things.
You want to do that?
Do you want to do that? Do you want to do that?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, that's a good idea.
We'll do that.
Okay.
Tim says, I need a laugh. Can you get Porky to do his Martin O'Neill impression, please?
My team were magnificent. The way the boys applied themselves to the job were simply beyond belief. And I've got a new contract from the Football Association of Ireland to give me and Roy 3 more years. No,
I see you were still having
rubbish.
a go. You were still having a go. Mr. Brazil picked you up yesterday morning on the Sports Breakfast, I heard, when you were doing your paper review.
Yes, that's right.
And he said, why are you picking on Martin O'Neill, which is what I said.
Yeah, I wasn't picking on Martin O'Neill. I think Al was not that happy with the settlement reached by Dr. Cavero.
Oh, really?
What's her name? Dr.
Canero?
Canero, yeah.
Really?
He wasn't happy.
We've got to do listography coming up very shortly.
Yeah.
Our 3 favourite comedians. Dee says this, it was 1969, the wind was howling and a pregnant lady finds a phone box after her waters break. And then some idiot, it's not the word he's used, has cut the receiver off. You can imagine that scene, can't you?
Well, that wouldn't have happened in 1969 because I wasn't actually a fully fledged journo
in
till
whatever year it was. But somebody tries to use the telephone.
Yeah.
A couple of people pointed this out.
Yes.
It's very irresponsible to not allow other people who might have been in an emergency, because not everyone had a phone then, run down to the phone box only to find that the line's been cut.
That's a bit melodramatic. I mean, you'd bang on the wall of your neighbour's house and tell them that something going on. Well, somebody'd have a phone. I mean, no, I'm not going to be held responsible for those sorts of crises. I didn't. Usually, the phone box I'm talking about were on the middle of the Welsh Hills or something like that, remote places.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, I've just been told that song, I just thought it was generally the Benny Hill theme in order to just kind of, try and represent us musically. Apparently that was the sign for listography.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, because of 3 comedians.
Yeah.
And Benny Hill's a comedian.
Well, I didn't know that.
What do you mean?
I didn't know that.
Didn't know what?
I didn't know that the music was our cue to start listography.
Well, sorry, you've just admitted you knew that was the Benny Hill theme.
I did.
And you knew that listography is our 3 favourite comedians?
Yes.
So you didn't manage to connect the 2?
I didn't know.
What a dumbbell you are.
Well, sometimes I don't always pick these things up. Colombia have just scored, by the way.
Yeah, right.
Against Paraguay, I think.
Oh,
Paraguay played in red and white stripes, remember?
Yeah.
Why would you not like the Copa America?
Yeah, I do. It's great.
No, you're talking about it as if it's basketball that you hate.
No, I'm not. No,
right.
It's fantastic. But I'll be concentrating on the Euros, won't I, from Friday?
Well, you will, but keep an eye on this as well, because don't forget there's a few players from this part of the world who play at club level in Europe playing in this.
No, absolutely right. Yeah, absolutely right.
So,
right.
Would you like to go first with your comedians? Well, you do one and I'll do one. That seems to be the way we've been doing it lately.
Okay, fine.
And remember, it's not about winning and losing, it's just about having a conversation.
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
Right, so my first comedian who I wish was still going and gave me enormous pleasure for hours and hours watching shows, Mike Yarwood.
Mike Yarwood?
Loved Mike Yarwood.
Really?
I loved Mike Yarwood, the impressionist.
An impressionist.
He was an impressionist, and he used to. He was the original one who did, now then, young man, when you come and play for me, remember, I might not be the best in the world, but I'm in the top one. He was brilliant, Mike Yarwood, and I thought his impressions of everybody. Do you know he once on stage came out of the London Palladium to do an impersonation of Howard Wilson, and he had a Gannick smack on, and he had a pipe in his mouth, and he was just about to start when he saw Harold Wilson sitting in the front row, the Prime Minister. So he walked off again.
Did he?
He wouldn't do it.
Couldn't do it.
No.
Right.
No.
Yeah. I mean, he was a terrific impressionist, I must say. I wouldn't be on my list. My first one is going to be an American comedian called George Carlin.
Right.
I don't know if you've ever heard of him.
No, I haven't.
You might not have done. He was a bit of an alternative comedian at the time.
Right.
But he was a massively successful comedian as well. And very, very, very funny.
Yes.
And he sort of just appealed to my sense of humour. I mean, he used to talk about... he's very sort of worshipped by lefties.
Right.
Who have slightly got him wrong, because while he might have some left-wing kind of tendencies, he's more of a libertarian, really.
Yes.
But one of my favourite things he did was after there had been a couple of gun incidents in Chicago.
Oh, yes.
And the police had shot dead this 17-year-old, 16-year-old kid.
My God.
And it turned out that the gun that he was pointing at them was actually a plastic gun. It wasn't a real gun.
Yes.
And he says, so what did they do? What have they decided to do? The government, the police force, the mayor of Chicago, they decided to ban the fake guns and keep the real ones.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I think pretty much sums up the irony of that situation. But I thought he was brilliant.
Indeed. Okay. Right.
Second one.
My second one, now, I simply don't like this rash of modern, smart-ass, what I call comedians, like Jimmy, what's his name?
Jimmy Carr.
Jimmy Carr. I mean, I've met Jimmy Carr. He's actually been in here, and I've had a long chat with him about...
I actually watched a Netflix sort of stand-up film of Jimmy Carr, and I thought he was actually very funny.
Yeah, well, as I say, I've met him, and I think he's a great guy, and he was doing Help for Heroes, and we were doing something on it as well, and he was great. His humour's just not mine, that's all. But I accept he's very successful and appeals to millions of people, wealthy and successful, no problem, just doesn't appeal to me. I like more comedians who act out roles which I find funny, and the second one, I know this ages me a bit, but it's Dick Emery. I thought Dick Emery was...
But he was also an impressionist.
Yeah,
well, going with two impressionists here.
Well, I'm not sure he was an impressionist. He didn't do impressions of people. He did characters.
Well, he did
characters. He had characters he did, but he was so funny. And he used to do it with the guy who... Oh, dear me. He's the father of the very successful modern actor who was in Lucan. He played Lucan.
Did he? I didn't see that.
No, OK. And he was a terrific actor as well. But I love Dick Emery. I love the Dick Emery show. I love the Mike Yarwood show. I'll think of somebody a bit more modern for my third.
OK. My second one's going to be Billy Connolly.
Billy Connolly, right,
who,
OK.
Obviously I've got a Scottish connection with him, but I mean, he's become a worldwide superstar. And if you haven't seen on Facebook, I should say, the video of him doing... I've seen him once live, funny enough, it was in Carnegie Hall in New York, and he was just brilliant. But if you haven't seen on Facebook his description of the suicide bomber training, it's just fantastic. It's one of the funniest things you'll ever see in your life. I may have to play it to you at some point, but it's just brilliant. I think Billy Connolly, some have criticised him for being a bit of a lovey and coming out with some of the things he comes out with, but I mean, he's from the old Govan shipyards originally.
Oh, absolutely.
Fabulously funny man, fabulous sense of humour, and a great Glasgow export, I'd say.
Yeah, OK. My third, without a shadow of a doubt, is Peter Kay, who I think is utterly fantastic.
See, I don't get Peter Kay.
Yeah, I do. I like Peter Kay a lot.
It's a northern thing.
It's a northern thing, and it's Phoenix Nights and all that kind of stuff.
I don't get any of that.
And I love Peter Kay. I think he's absolutely brilliant.
Whenever we do these things, I mean, whenever we finish them, you always get people going, "Oh, I can't believe you didn't say this or that or the other." And there's so many people to think of, actually.
Exactly.
I think Charlie Drake's the guy you're thinking of. Is it Charlie Drake?
No, it's not Charlie Drake.
No?
I'll remember his name. Roy.
Oh, Roy Hull? Roy Hudd?
No, not Roy Hudd, no. But I'll remember his name, don't worry. Yeah.
Roy Kinnear.
Roy Kinnear, thank you.
There you go.
Because his son, somebody Kinnear, was played Lucan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
all right.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking of, now for my third one, when I go over in America. I mean, Eddie Murphy was a fantastic stand-up comedian in his time. Yeah. Really, really funny.
Yeah.
Richard Pryor was brilliant. You could go with, some of the Monty Python people who, who were in shows and all that. And I don't know where I'm going to go. I mean, Jerry Seinfeld, brilliant as well.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, I think I'm going to go with Rowan Atkinson.
Rowan Atkinson,
Partly
okay, yeah.
just because he's so
can't argue with that.
versatile.
Can't argue with
very
that.
funny in Blackadder.
Yes.
Very funny stand-up comedian as well.
Yes.
I mean, I saw him in New York as well, and he did this amazing skit, which, of course, in America, Indian restaurants were very much kind of only for the people who were enlightened and very clever, and who were able to eat, unusual food.
Sure.
But he did a sketch of an English guy. He played the Indian waiter of a sort of drunken English crowd coming in to an Indian restaurant after the pubs had shut, with all the racist abuse that ensued and all the rest of it. And it was really, really funny.
Yes,
I just think Atkinson's very versatile.
I think he's terrific. He might have gone on my list had I a bit longer to think about it.
Yeah,
but very, very funny man. I agree.
Exactly right. So is that 3 each then?
3 each.
We've done it already.
We've done it already,
all right,
mate.
Well, we better stop now. We do listography now, the 3 oldest things that you own. I mean, you've probably got some quite old things lying around the house, haven't you?
Yeah, I probably have.
Kept since childhood or whatever.
Yeah, I would think so.
Do you want to go first with the first one?
Okay, I'll go with the first one.
Yeah.
My oldest thing I have in my apartment, or apartments, plural, is a 1938 Everton programme.
1938?
1938.
Wow. Where'd you get that from?
Did you buy it? I bought it from a programme fair. It wasn't a family heirloom. My family heirloom was I had a 1953 Everton programme, but when I stupidly lost my programme collection when I was moving house once, I moved house so many times, and I wrapped it in a black plastic bag to keep it dry, stored it in a loft because I had so much sort of baggage. Yeah. And when I moved out, because I was only in the house for 3 or 4 months because I was renting it out, so I was only there to sort of do it up, you know what I mean? Right. So I stored the stuff in the loft so it wouldn't get in the way of people painting and decorating, that kind of stuff. When I moved out, I moved all the boxes out of the loft, and I didn't move that one out. It was wrapped in black plastic, and it was in the...
Would it have been worth a lot of money, do you think, from 1938?
It was absolutely invaluable to me.
Yeah.
But anyway, what I did then was, I then went to a load of programme fairs and bought a load of old Everton programmes. They weren't mine anymore, but they were at least those programmes.
Sure.
And the oldest one I've got is 1938.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what would that be worth? If I mean, obviously, just for sentimental value, you've got it. But
sentimental value for me, but I mean, it wouldn't be worth more than 20 quid, I wouldn't think. No, I wouldn't think so, no.
Well, I mean, on that vein, I suppose, I've got my family heirlooms. I've got a gold watch that used to belong to my grandfather.
Wow.
Which he was given, like a pocket watch.
Yes.
Which he was given when he retired from, I think he was in the railway police or something like that. And it was after the First World War. So it was around about late 20s, early 30s, I think. And it worked, actually, for a long time.
Oh, yes? Well, shouldn't you take it to a jeweller's and get it to work again?
Yeah, I should do, yeah.
Of course you should.
It sort of sits in a drawer at the moment.
Yeah,
because,
that's amazing.
When I was in New York, I had it fixed.
Yeah, right, yeah.
And so that's probably the oldest...
you had it fixed and it's broken again?
Yeah.
That's not good.
Well, it's very old. I mean, from the 30s.
Yes,
so you're talking sort of, 70-odd years.
Yeah, sure.
Maybe nearly 80 years old. So,
sure.
But it's engraved to him because he got it as a gift like you used to get when you retired from certain jobs.
Excellent.
It's lovely.
Yeah,
very nice. What's your second one?
Well, believe it or not, because this is a feature that we've talked about before, and it'll feature in our live show at Dingwalls on Friday. Yeah. The second oldest thing I've got in my house is my Butlins Boxing Cup.
Oh, yes.
Because I won it when I was 7.
Yes.
And I've still got it. It sits on top of the fridge, but we take it to the Dingwalls because it forms part of the illustrative story of our lives.
Yes, indeed,
if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
And it's dented now, but it's still, to my mind, it's a magnificent thing, because I remember the day I won it. I remember climbing through the ring, and I remember, my dad being in my corner, and I remember the referee in the ring, and the lad that I beat up was a Welsh lad, and I just remember the day amazingly. And I got my cup, and I've had it ever since.
That is pretty old.
Yes.
I mean, I would probably have more old stuff, because, I've got old sort of golf trophies that I've won from when I was sort of in my 20s and stuff like that. But I don't think I've got them anymore. So they made it out of my divorce, unfortunately. Okay. Because most of the stuff I had in the house I never really saw again. Yeah. All I've got is pictures and a few CDs. So I'm going to say one of the oldest things I've got is a raincoat.
Right.
Which I bought in New York in about 19... You've seen the raincoat. You accused me of looking like Columbo in it.
Did I?
I think I bought it about 1984, 85, something like that.
You kept it for 30 years, odd.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know why, but because I haven't bought another raincoat, and I don't really wear a raincoat very often, but occasionally I'll wear that. And I wore it once, I think, into Talk Sport, and you accused me of looking like Columbo.
Right,
because it's a very 80s kind of trench coat. Yeah. It's quite a nice trench coat.
Well, okay,
and
fine.
it's only right. It doesn't look any older than the day I bought it, except it doesn't look as if you'd have bought it today.
No, sure, I know what you mean, yeah. But styles of raincoats don't really change over the decades. In fact, they go out and they come back into fashion.
Yeah.
So they might have come back into fashion.
Very possibly so.
Okay.
What's your third one then?
Well, my third one, I have a huge collection of books, okay?
Yeah.
And I need to buy some new bookshelves from, what's it called? IKEA. What are they called? Billies?
No, the Billies.
The Billies, yeah. I need a couple more of those because books are piling up on the floor now. Because I'm always acquiring books.
Well, you're acquiring books. Yeah, you don't buy them, though, do you?
People send me them, and I get journals and all that kind of stuff. But, however, the one book which has been constant with me throughout my career, when I got accepted onto the original journalist training course. So, that was when I was 18.
Yeah.
And, momentous, really, when you think the career that I've had since then. This is like sort of 40 years ago.
Momentous.
Well, it's momentous, yeah. When you think, what was going to, I wonder how my life will span out after I go on this training course.
You never think about it, though, do you? When you're
No,
doing
I don't suppose you do, but, it's amazing. But the first thing I did was I went into town in Chester and I went to W.H. Smith and I bought a copy of the Oxford English Dictionary.
Right.
Thought if I'm going to be a journalist, I'll have to know what every word I'm going to write means.
Yeah.
And I've still got it. And I actually signed it to myself. So I put in the,
What did you write?
I wrote, to Mike, good luck in your career, and then signed it, right? Because I thought...
Why would you do that?
Well, because I couldn't find anyone else who wanted to sign it.
The ultimate act of narcissism. Shouldn't you have got somebody else on the course to do... You could have done each other's.
No, because I bought it before I went on the course. I bought it here in Chester, and we all went off, 2 days later to Newcastle, where the course was. But I've still got that. And in fact, it's fairly useless these days, because there's words now that I need to know which aren't in it. So, for instance, I've got a much bigger, huge Oxford English Dictionary.
Yes.
I think it's Oxford, but it's about twice the size, which sits in my bookcase. But this one sits on the...
Do you ever use a dictionary, though? I mean, you don't
Yes,
really
I do. No, I do. I do, definitely. This one sits on top of the microwave in the kitchen at my breakfast table, so that when I'm reading the papers in the morning or any time of day...
Do you still come across words that you're not sure about?
Well, I come across words that I want to know if I can interpret them a certain way.
Right.
And I think that's an interesting word. Could I, used a word the other night, and I knew what it meant, but I wanted to see how many different words are in it. It was called pejorative.
No, pejorative. Yeah,
pejorative. That's right. Yeah, and I thought, hang on, can I reinterpret this? Pejorative means disabling or whatever. You know what I mean? And or declassifying something or something like that. And I'd look at that the other day. And the interesting thing is, my original dictionary I bought all those years ago is about the size of what you would call the sort of Bible that you get in a hotel bedroom, Gideon's Bible, right? The new one I've got is 3 times that size.
Yeah.
It's big enough to put on a coffee table. And I found the better explanation in the bigger one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that's pretty old.
Yeah.
I started off with 3 things which I was going to mention. I was going to mention my father's painting,
right,
which he gave me back
I've
in the 80s.
got one of those as well.
Which is about but I've actually worked out there's something older than that because he bought myself and my sister the first copy when it came out of Sgt. Pepper. So I've still got that vinyl album of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band.
Well, that's pretty impressive.
Which I can still play because it hasn't been ruined.
Yeah.
So I guess that would have come out in about, 67, was it? 68?
Well, funny enough, you should say that. That would be that time. I threw my LPs out when I got enraged about having to go back to America in the 90s.
And this is I think this is the oldest one I've got.
Yeah, but I've got some singles much older than that. I've got Beatles singles going back to... Did you say 67?
The first one was about
65, 66. Yeah, exactly. Definitely.
So those are probably the 3 oldest things I've got.
Yeah.
Which is quite interesting.
No,
the other thing I was going to say, of course, was my car.
Yeah.
But that's only 16 years old.
It's only 16 years old, yeah. But, I mean, funny enough, if I'd have kept my original Jag, which I did for a couple of years... That was registered in 97.
Right.
So that would have been like nearly 20 years old, okay?
Yeah.
But the problem is, when you keep a Jag like that, the tyres go down on it if you don't,
And also everything you have to do to it becomes incredibly expensive.
Well, no, I don't mind the expense because I wanted to turn into a classic car in my ownership.
Yeah.
But the point is, if you don't turn the engine over for 6 weeks, the battery goes flat.
Yeah.
So it's a nuisance. It's just the only way...
you have to insure it.
You have to insure it, indeed. The only way you can keep a vehicle like that is you actually keep it in a specialist location where people look after classic cars.
Yeah.
And they run them twice a week and all that kind of stuff,
Right.
you know.
But then you have to pay for that as well.
Well, not only you have to pay for it, but the nearest one was 10 miles away. So I thought, well, I don't want to trail over there every couple of weeks just have a look at it, you know.
No, exactly.
So
exactly
so
right.
There we are.
I've got a text here from somebody who wants to tell a story about being scammed.
Right.
So I was selling my old car in Gumtree about 3 weeks ago. I got a text from someone saying he was interested in my car for his son. He said he worked at sea. So I sent him an email, the price of the car, he agreed the price. He said he wanted to get the car shipped to his house in the UK, but the shipping agent only accepted money from Western Union.
Hang on, where's this coming from?
He doesn't say.
So it's outside of the UK?
Well, I presume that this guy...
Why would you ship a second-hand car to somewhere else? Just go to where the location of the home is and buy a car there.
Yeah, I don't know. He says, if I get... This is from Tim, actually. He says, if I gave him my PayPal, he would pay in the £350 for me. And then he sent what looked like a PayPal email saying that they were holding his money until I paid to their headquarters in China. So I contacted Western Union and PayPal, and both agreed that this was a scam and PayPal would not hold money for anyone.
Right.
Lucky for me. So, I mean, it's one of these things, if you sell stuff online,
it happens
you
all
have
the
to be
time.
very careful. That's why I don't really sell anything online.
No,
I buy anything online.
Have you ever sold anything on eBay?
No.
No,
I've never bought anything on eBay.
No, have I. I wouldn't even know how to access eBay, to be honest.
you can buy the DVD, our DVD,
Yeah.
online, of course.
Yes,
And you
of
can
course
buy
you can.
anything online, but what I'm talking about is individual sort of...
Yeah, but that's not eBay. On eBay, you're getting second-hand stuff, aren't
That's
you,
right,
normally?
yeah.
You know, like, I've got... well, like you just said, a 1967 Sgt. Pepper's original. Yeah, it's on eBay, 250 quid at any offers and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
I've never fancied having to package it all up and send it off.
Neither have I.
Yeah.
And also, I think you're opening yourself up there to so much activity on the computer, you could get scammed easily.
You could.
Easily, in my view. If you turn your computer...
And your computer may not be particularly well protected.
No, maybe not. But if you turn your computer into a commercial, form of trading, I think you could find yourself on very dodgy ground indeed.
Yes.
Right, now, I'll tell you what I want to talk to you about. I want to talk to you now about the fact that you have got... you just mentioned a coat, right? Just mentioned a coat. Right.
A raincoat.
Raincoat, yeah. Now then, have you got enough clothes in your wardrobe? Because obviously we are in the sort of middle income bracket where we buy new clothes all the time.
I don't buy new clothes all the time, actually.
Okay, well,
I did buy some new clothes over in America when I was there.
Okay. If you don't, do you take any of your old clothes down to charity shops?
No.
Never?
No.
Well, don't you think you should?
No.
There is 2.7...
Let's throw them away.
There is £2.7 billion worth of clothes at the back of wardrobes in this country which could fund charities.
I'm sure that's true.
2.7.
Whenever I've had an experience with a charity shop,
Yeah.
I tried to give a charity shop a bunch of my albums actually once.
Right.
And they, one, didn't want them.
Yeah.
And two, told me that they didn't want me to. I said, well, don't you want me to just, if I bring them to you, can you not just, put them up in your store and everything? I'm not asking you to come and get them.
Did they say they're in not good enough shape or something?
No, they just said, well, we've got so many, we don't want any more.
Oh, blimey, yeah.
And other people I've spoken to have said the same. If you ring up certain charity shops and say, look, I've got this for you, they just say, no, we don't want it.
Do you know, the funny thing is, there's a charity shop opposite a boozer I use sometimes on a Sunday at the end of a walk across the North Downs, on the opposite side of the street in the sort of little village, and people just come along and use it as a tip. They just put loads of stuff there.
And that's not
and
what they want.
It all gets thrown away.
Yeah, exactly.
It gets thrown away every Monday morning.
I mean,
if it's been left to the elements outside, we have to throw it away.
I mean, with clothes, you can recycle them. There's often, if you go to like the recycling points, wherever they are in your town, they'll have bottle recycling of cardboard. They'll also have clothes.
Yeah.
So if you want to do that, I think that's a better idea.
That's right.
But I can't imagine somebody would want an old shirt of mine that I've happened to have kept in my wardrobe for 20 years. I don't wear anymore.
They're so choosy now, charity shops. Most of them only sell new stuff.
Yeah.
But on average, each wardrobe in this country contains 152 items of clothing. 152.
Yeah.
You got 152 items of clothing?
Probably, yeah.
So have I.
Probably.
57 of them are never worn.
Really?
Bet you don't buy clothes that you don't wear.
Well, as I say, I just bought a new suit, which I'm going to wear on Friday night. Bought a couple of shirts, bought a couple of pairs of trousers. But there's most of the stuff that I don't wear, I think I've thrown away now.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd have to say.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll wear the coat as well.
Yeah. I must admit, I don't give clothes to charity shops because, like you, I can't imagine having to wear a second-hand suit.
Well, especially your size.
My size is a very popular size, actually.
Nobody would get into it.
Very popular. As your TV reviewer, I can reveal there are no plans for a new series.
Yeah, no, but wasn't there a previous series?
Oh, hang on, wait a minute. It says here there might be a new series. What's your problem?
You never get tired of hearing that, really, do you?
Yeah, I do.
Do you?
Yeah, I don't think it's funny.
No, I think it's very funny.
I don't want to subject our millions of listeners to an unfunny piece of audio.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, that would be tragic, wouldn't it? Now, that music, of course, suggested it is time for Porky Vision.
Yep.
You did suggest that you might be talking about some of the Rogerisation aspects of Versailles and Peaky Blinders.
Well, Versailles collapsed. Forget Versailles.
It was on last night, wasn't it?
It was. I watched it last night.
You know what I found really annoying about it is after the show, they've got this ridiculous kind of, let's talk about the show.
Oh, have they?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they
Where
have,
these
actually,
people stand about and kind of analyse it.
Yeah, that's right.
Awful.
Rubbish. In the first episode of Versailles, lots of Rogerisation, okay? But that was to just whet your appetite. Second episode of Versailles, which was on last night, none.
Really?
None at all.
None at all?
None at all. Rogerisation factor 0.
Right.
Useless.
Was that guy that looks a bit like the man who should not be named still in it?
Yeah, he's still in it, but they found, like, for instance, a dead dwarf floating around in the fountain outside Versailles.
Was that the same one that had been under that woman's skirt?
Yes, that was the same dwarf.
Same one?
Yeah, same dwarf, yeah. And it's all becoming a bit sort of messy, really, knocking people's eyes out with axes and all that kind of stuff, which isn't very pleasant.
Yeah.
But they're not balancing that with any Rogerisation.
They spent a fortune on this show, haven't they?
Yeah, they've spent a fortune indeed, yeah. Now, the show which had the biggest mass Rogerisation that I've ever seen is Peaky Blinders, of
on
course.
television.
Now, Peaky Blinders finishes tonight.
Yes. Does it?
Oh, yes.
Well, that's the third series done.
Yes, 6 episodes,
Wow.
yeah.
It's short, isn't it?
Yeah, it is short. Yeah, we should have been more. But anyway, and it's all about Tommy Shelby and the family. It's quite a complicated plot, and I'm going to watch every episode again.
Right.
But it's basically they have.
Well, if the final episode is what tonight, you say?
Yes.
You don't want to give away what happens because that will be the end of the series.
Well, what happens is there's a traitor in the camp, and Tommy's got to find the traitor. Who is selling the secrets to the Russians. Because what's happening is Winston Churchill has employed the Shelby family to provide arms to the white Russians that we've talked about against the red Russians, who are the commies.
Right.
And the problem is that the white Russians are going to take all the arms, which cost like £30 million or something, but they're not going to pay Shelby, and Shelby's found this out.
Okay.
So he's
not happy.
Well, he's decided that they're still going to supply them because the British government want him to, but they are going to break into the Russian vault, which contains like hundreds of millions of pounds worth of wealth
and gold,
stolen from Russia before the revolution,
right.
and Fabergé eggs, by the way, and all this kind of stuff. So that's all going on now. Then. To bond with the Russians, to whom they're buying these arms, Russians suddenly invite them to their country home, which is somewhere in the home counties.
Okay.
And the Shelby car pulls up, and the three men get out, and they walk in, and then they're introduced into this room where literally it is the most explicit orgy ever filmed on television in the history of television.
How many people involved?
I would say upwards of 40 or 50.
Really?
Yeah, and the
shocking.
The graphic physical demonstration of Rogerisation is everywhere.
Is it?
You have men on their knees whose hands extend forward as if they were stretched out to embrace the anatomy of a woman.
Yeah.
And the man is literally, he's moving back and forwards.
Well, you don't see what he's holding on to, you mean?
You do. This is it, because what they do
what's he holding on to?
A woman.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and it's a very graphic simulation.
She's on all fours, presumably.
It's a very graphic... well, I'm just about to say, it's a very graphic depiction of what we used to call in the newspaper business the frombing.
Yes.
Which is
no, I've never called it that. You used to call it that.
That's called the from behind.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And that is I would have to say... something which you wouldn't have seen on television many years ago.
That's
you know
true.
What I mean?
Yeah.
But it's not just that. Then you've got people running out of the room, screaming naked, and all this kind of stuff. And you've got other people.
And does this form quite a long part of the actual
there's a whole
program?
Whole sort of 3 or 4 minutes focus on this room,
right?
Because in the middle of it, old Tommy Shelby's got a big cigar in his mouth, a glass in one hand.
Right.
He's embracing a woman, but he's still got his clothes on. All this kind of stuff. So he's just kind of
watching it all.
And then his brothers get involved. One brother's about to get married to a devout Christian woman, and they're going to emigrate to America. And his name is what's his name? Arthur.
Yeah.
And he's a big tall guy with the moustache.
Okay.
He suddenly gets tempted away to another room. And lo and behold, because they seem to specialise in this, He's Frombying, another female who's, you only see her face full on at the front, but with obvious signs of ecstasy and pleasure being derived from the Frombyisation, which Arthur's getting involved in.
Goodness me.
Off screen,
if you buy the
her.
DVDs of this show, it's listed as an 18. It's got an 18 certificate.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, well...
Now you know why.
Not sure, yeah, exactly. But, I mean, it's quite a shocking...
So were you quite shocked watching this?
I was quite shocked. Yeah. I felt it was very graphic and,
Unnecessary?
Well, I mean, that's the way people did it in those days. And at the centre of all this is the Russian Countess, who...
Was she involved in it as well?
Well, sort of, but only with Tommy, you see.
Right.
But I told you before, her weird idea of, Rogerisation is to involve a bit of Russian roulette in it as well, with a pistol with one bullet in it and a chamber of 6 holes, you know what I mean?
I didn't know Russian roulette was actually invented by the Russians.
Yeah, I think it was, yeah.
Was it?
I think it was, yeah. No, it was definitely. And in the middle of all this, by the way, they're drinking copious volumes of vodka.
Right.
Because that's what the Russians drink. Obviously, they drink vodka like we drink wine.
Yes.
I mean, if I was in Moscow now in that sort of situation, they would be pouring me measures of vodka like I would be pouring myself measures of Pinot Grigio.
Wine glass size.
Yeah, and you're supposed to drink it and just get on with it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I have to say it's very, very graphic indeed. Now...
so if you're of a sort of, shall we say, a nature which is like to be offended, you perhaps wouldn't want to watch it.
Well, most people will. Most people will find that their titillation factor cannot be suppressed for something as graphic as this.
Versailles, when the sex scenes came on, people actually started turning it off.
Well, I don't know about that. Now then, let me tell you, Coronation Street, you see, there's an amazing Rogerisation scene in that.
Is there?
Yeah, because the girl behind the bar in the Rovers, whose name I've forgotten, but she's the girl who used to be in Hearsay, the group.
Hearsay?
Yeah, she used to be a singer in the group.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And then that group broke up because none of them could sing. Mylene Class was in it as well. So she's done very well.
Yes.
This girl's name is Suzanne Shaw.
Okay.
But I'm just trying to remember who she is in Coronation Street. She's Steve McDonald's wife, right?
Okay.
Steve McDonald's
I've
wife.
never seen Coronation Street. So
Steve McDonald's gone off to Spain because he's depressed and he's gone to get his head together.
Okay.
She stays at home, beautiful wife. Then an old school chum turns up, just happens to call in for a pint.
In the pub. Didn't know she's there.
Yeah. She starts, thinking her husband doesn't love her anymore because he's gone to Spain. She puts on her high heels and a very tight dress.
Yeah.
She gets round to his place to find out he's done extremely well since they left school. He's some sort of successful businessman with one of these homes with great big windows all over the place, And
so what, he lives locally then? She didn't know that.
He lives quite locally. She gets in there and looks very attractive indeed, although it is very obvious that her embonpoint.
Yes.
No, what's it called? The embonpoint is definitely supported by false substances.
What, you mean it's been artificially inflated?
I believe that to be the case.
Really?
I don't wish to be rude, but I believe that to be the case.
Okay.
And but nevertheless very attractive.
So she didn't take long then, did she, to get around there?
Well, she gets around there and then they get upstairs. But then she has that moment of conscience.
Oh, yeah.
She looks up and sees a picture of this chap with his fiancée.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, she's a wedding planner. The reason she met him again was because he...
so he came to plan his wedding?
Came to plan his wedding, yes, that's right, yeah. But now...
Sounds as if a moral standard of television shows at the moment has dropped considerably.
Absolutely amazing. And whilst all this is going on in Coronation Street, there's a triumvirate of 3 young ladies. One who is an army, toughie.
Yeah.
Another one who is... what is she? She's Kevin, who owns the garage's daughter.
I thought you were going to say she's Kevin.
She runs the garage. And the third one...
Is this still in Coronation Street?
This is still in Coronation Street. The third one is a lady who is the daughter of the guy who owns the factory, the Knicker factory, Knicker Stitchers.
Right.
And, it's a love triangle between 3 women.
Really?
Yeah, it's all going on. Now, and also...
What, you mean like lesbian love triangle?
It is a lesbian love triangle.
Really?
It is, yes.
Unbelievable.
And meanwhile, Billy the vicar, who's the only vicar I've ever seen who wears jeans with his dog collar, right? Really trendy, you know what I mean? He's in a bit of a love triangle as well, but that's with men.
But not with lesbians?
Not with lesbians, no.
Oh, with men?
With men, yeah.
So
now,
a gay love triangle?
It's a gay love triangle, yeah.
It's all happening in Coronation Street, isn't it?
All happening, yeah. Now, let me talk to you about Wallander. the last chapter of Wallander, last
You've got a
episode
minute
of
for Wallander.
And this is Sir Kenneth Branagh.
Yes.
And it turned ridiculous in the end. He suddenly got Alzheimer's.
Right.
I mean, just suddenly got
That's part of the whole show, isn't it?
Yeah, but
he's suffering from dementia, supposedly.
Yeah, but he goes from being normal to a raving loony running around a field tearing his clothes off in the space of about 3 days. Meanwhile, there's a police investigation going on because somebody's hanged themselves because 30 years ago they gave away the secrets of a Russian submarine in Swedish waters. It moves so slow, Wallander. It is so slow, it's unbelievable.
But it's finished now.
It's finished, but I mean, God, 10 minutes to speak 3 words which take the plot on, which should have taken 30 seconds. Yeah, it's really slow.
I'm not surprised after you're watching all that other stuff. Watching something like that would seem as if it's a bit dull.
I mean, I love the scenery and I love the the way of life in Sweden. I think it's in Sweden. Could be Copenhagen. Could be Denmark. It's Denmark. I think it's Denmark, because they keep talking about going back to Copenhagen.
Yeah.
And it's lovely, the Scandinavian backdrops and all that, but it's so blinking slow. And I'm afraid that, Sir Kenny Branagh takes himself very seriously, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't think it works. I think the plot's gone all over the place.
Maybe there needs some more lesbian love triangles in it.
No, there's not. But he suddenly acquires a young lady. He wakes up one morning, she's in the bed next to him and all that. I don't know where she came from, So, I mean, but they have free love in Scandinavia. That's why I quite like going there. To be honest.
When was the last time you went there?
To see England play in Denmark. Wonderful, wonderful.
Well, when was it, though?
Copenhagen. About 4 years ago.
4?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You think we look pretty good together? You think my shoes are made of leather? But I'm a substitute for another guy.
That music there, that was The Who.
It was The Who, Substitute.
Substitute. And the guy playing the lead guitar, of course, was
Pete Townsend.
Yeah. And do you know what sort of guitar he's playing?
I think he had a Les Paul.
He had a Les Paul, you're absolutely right. Now, Les Paul, whose birth name was Lester William Pulsfuss.
Pulsfuss.
P-O-L-S-F-U-S-S.
Okay.
That was his
Is that
name.
German or something? Pulsfuss.
Don't know, really. Anyway,
Certainly sounds European.
He invented the Les Paul guitar, which is the sort of what I'm looking for. It's the holy grail for a legion of lead guitarists over the years.
Did he not invent the electric guitar? Isn't that what you mean?
No,
Not the Les Paul guitar.
No, he invented the Les Paul guitar.
Oh, okay.
Which is a particular sort of electric guitar. 'Cause it had a resonance to it that had never been found before.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Right.
All sorts of people played Les Paul. John Lennon.
Yeah.
Eric Clapton, I think.
Yeah.
Certainly Jimmy Page, I think. And
Some of them play Fenders, don't they? Some of them play.
I think they all can probably play. Anyway, point of the story is the reason this guitar got to sound so good.
Yeah.
And by the way, the reason playing that is he was born on this day in 1915.
Oh, okay.
So he would have been 101.
101.
Today.
Yes.
In fact, he died in 2009. So he lived to a great old age.
He did,
didn't
He did.
That's how long? Only like a few years ago.
Well,
6.
2009 is 6 years ago. 7 years ago.
7 years ago.
Yeah.
So he would have been 93 when he died.
Yeah.
It's not bad.
He would
is
have
it?
been.
Yeah. Anyway, the reason that the guitar developed as it was is he had an idea about it, right?
Right.
And then he was driving home one night in 1940.
What, you mean he had an idea about making it?
He had an idea about making a guitar.
Yeah.
And then he was driving home one night. I don't know if he was bladderated or not, but he drove his car.
Hopefully, if he was driving, he wouldn't have been.
Well, you'd hope not, but his car went over a 20-foot ravine while he was thinking about the guitar.
Oh, well, in that case, maybe.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And apparently it was raining and he couldn't see anything because his windscreen wipers didn't work. So a bit daft to go driving around.
That's not great, is it?
In a tropical storm, like the sort of thing.
Well, maybe he went out and his windscreen wipers were working and then they failed while the rain was on.
Well,
that can happen.
Anyway, what happened was he was so badly injured, he ended up for the rest of his life with a withered right arm. It was like bent.
Yeah.
And it was bent to the extent where you could cradle guitar in it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, he had difficulty playing it. So what he had to do is he had to build a guitar then that was light enough to go round his neck on, on a guitar strap and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And which he could play with such a delicate touch because he had a withered right arm, which was permanently bent at 90 degrees.
So is that why he made it thinner then?
Exactly. And so A, it wasn't too heavy, and B, it only needed a very light touch on the strings.
I see.
You see what I mean?
Right.
To give it its unique sound.
And this was when, in the 50s or something?
It was in 1948.
Oh, okay.
So so the first guy apparently to pick it up and play it, make it famous, was 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, right?
Bill Haley.
4 o'clock, 5. Yeah, Bill Haley. That's him.
And the Comets.
And the Comets. That's right. Yeah.
Although his guitar was a bigger guitar, wasn't it? Was that a Les Paul as well?
Well, apparently it was the first Les Paul.
Oh, okay.
And not only that, but I mean, Bill Haley had a range of guitars and all that kind of stuff. And
wasn't there something interesting about Les Paul though as well, that he wasn't particularly a guitar kind of, obsessive. He wasn't, he wanted to make a guitar, but he wasn't necessarily a guy who was interested that much in the sort of music as such. Well, he was more of an engineering kind of guy.
Well, he must have been quite interested to have invented the world's most famous guitar.
I don't know. That's why I'm asking you.
Well, it's obvious.
Well, that's what I'm asking.
It's like saying, old George Stephenson.
But he didn't make. I mean, what I'm saying is, he didn't construct it himself, did he?
Yeah, he did.
Did he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah. It's like saying George Stephenson, the father of the railway, who was also born on this day.
Was he?
In 1781.
Yes.
It's like saying, he didn't have much interest in steam locomotives.
Well, what I mean is,
he
he wasn't a musician as such.
Well, no, he only invented the steam locomotive.
But what I'm saying about Les Paul is that he wasn't necessarily known for being a great musician, was he?
Yeah, he was, because he invented the world's most famous guitar.
Why don't we have any of his music then?
What do you mean?
Well, was he a musician or not?
Of course he was.
Well, where's his music?
You can't invent the world's most famous guitar unless you can understand the sounds that are going to come off it.
That's true. But what I'm saying is, he
musician.
wasn't. Yeah, but he wasn't a musician. He wasn't in a band or anything, was he?
He was a musician.
Was
he was a musician.
Has he ever written any music that we would know then?
He has never written a hit song.
Right.
But
Did he write songs?
No, he didn't write songs. He taught other musicians how to play his guitar.
I see.
And they wrote great songs, which are legendary.
Well, that's kind of what I mean. That he
tunes.
wasn't, he wasn't a guy who was invested in music.
He was in a different form of music. I mean, for instance, you and I have one particular brand of broadcasting.
Yeah.
But we wouldn't be invited on to Radio 3 on the BBC to talk about Mozart, would we?
Probably not.
No, exactly. So it's just different form of the same industry, okay?
Well, yeah, but what I'm saying is that, he's a guy that's created something that a lot of other people have played music on and constructed sound on and kind of composed songs on, but he wasn't a musician really himself, which is kind of interesting.
Yes, I've tried to explain that to you, but it's clearly not getting through. Now, George Stephenson, do you know where he got the inspiration for the steam engine from?
No.
When he was 10, he was sitting in his mother's hovel of a kitchen, because very poor.
Well, presumably in his own kitchen.
What?
It was his mother's kitchen.
His mother's kitchen, yeah, but they didn't have much money.
No.
And this was in 1791.
Brazil have scored another goal. 6-1 now.
6-1, yeah, there you go. In 1791.
Yeah.
And as he sat there, watching his mother toil away, she had put a kettle on the stove, and he saw the lid of the kettle rising and steam coming out. Right?
Didn't have a sort of a spout then?
Yeah, it had a spout, but you've seen a kettle boil, a non-electric kettle. Even though it's got a spout, the spout is not usually a big enough bore to
if the top isn't on properly, it can kind of vibrate a little bit.
And lifts up. It lifts up. It lifts up when the kettle's boiling. And from that, at the age of 10, he realised, hang on, if you did that on an industrial scale, you could use boiling water and the steam from it to push a piston down a chamber until it hits a valve at the end, which opens and lets the pressure out, and then it springs back again. And then you do repeat the process. You see what I mean?
Yes.
How brilliant was that for a 10-year-old boy to work that out?
Very brilliant.
Absolutely brilliant. And then he had to invent things like oil to...
well, he didn't really invent oil, did he?
Well, I mean, to stop the metal from seizing up.
Yeah.
It needed lubrication and all that. And oil wasn't used for lubrication in those days.
What was oil used for then?
It was used...
Because, I mean, the whole kind of oil explosion, if you like, didn't come until much later, did it?
Not till much later, indeed. They used to use animal fat and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, like lard and stuff.
Yeah, lard and that.
Yeah, because that was what they had.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Right.
So there you go. That's really interesting stuff, don't you think?
Yeah, I think so.
I do.
Bob says this. I think the guitar on that track substitute was a Rickenbacker.
A Rickenbacker?
Yeah, not a Les Paul.
No.
Are you sure it was a Les Paul?
Yeah, we're pretty sure it was. Oh, it's 7-1 now to Brazil. They're coming back, aren't they? This is the 90th minute, though, so they probably won't score any more.
7-1?
Yes.
Absolutely extraordinary.
7-1.
You have to feel a bit sorry for them. Mind you, isn't that funny? Because they got beaten by 7 goals, didn't they, by Germany?
7-1, 9.
Was it 9?
No, 7.
No, it was 7, wasn't it?
7, yeah, 7.
Or 9, was that German for no?
Yeah, that was
quite work that one out.
Yeah.
Now, do you want to hear more about Tommy the Chimp? Because I think you should be concerned about this.
Well, I certainly do, please.
This is an exclusive story that's been sent to us. Right. He was at the centre of a legal battle to give animals legal rights, as you know.
I was at the forefront of it.
The case is now the focus of an HBO documentary called Unlocking the Cage, but they're saying that Tommy himself seems to have vanished.
How can you vanish from a concrete cell?
Tommy's owner refused to transfer him to a reputable animal sanctuary, prompting the Non-Human Rights Project to launch this lawsuit, right, claiming that he was being unlawfully detained.
Yeah.
So maybe the owner of him has suddenly moved
him away somewhere.
Maybe he's moved him somewhere else.
Yeah. It's devilment, that, isn't it?
Yeah,
really?
Well, you just don't know what's going to happen now, because if he has this... I don't think he'd have escaped, would he?
No, he won't have escaped.
I'm a bit concerned that you're not up to speed on
Well,
this.
You know, we have a movement which is designed to help Tom, and clearly some devilment is going on here.
Yeah.
It
says the timing is significant because the US Fish and Wildlife Service elevated the status of captive chimpanzees from threatened to endangered.
Exactly.
In September.
Exactly.
Which meant that the owner would have had to get a permit and face tougher controls.
Yeah, exactly.
On what he was actually doing.
It's very, very worrying, you know, this. Honestly, it really is, you know, the way that... animals are so badly treated. So what have we had on the show tonight? We've had goldfish who are now...
Well, we're about to talk about goldfish with our expert coming up very shortly.
Intelligent enough to recognise human faces, intelligent enough to recognise different musical sounds in water.
I'm not sure if it's goldfish, actually. This is a particular breed of tropical fish, I think.
OK, but well, they're fish. They're all fish, but still we keep them in the tiniest sort of spaces. Absolutely outrageous, it really is.
Well, it says here that
You've got to ban zoos. I want to ban zoos.
Yeah, you said that the other night.
Yeah. In fact,
you want to ban zoos, you want to ban quangos, you want to ban goldfish bowls.
Well, I want to get rid of quangos because it's a drain on the public purse, and they're just a bunch of lazy bums are the people who constitute quangos, okay,
right,
who have very, very little to contribute to society. But in 100 years' time, mankind will be amazed that we allowed zoos to go on for so long, keeping animals captive. Keeping a gorilla captive is horrendous. I don't care whether they've got a little island like you tell me they've got in Central Park in New York.
Bronx Zoo, yeah.
Or the Bronx Zoo, sorry. Or whether they're on a game reserve or whatever, whether the lions are long leat. It's horrible to keep animals captive, and we shouldn't do it.
Now, how about this from Peter, who says, Les Paul was a virtuoso player. He and his wife were a famous actor in the 50s in the United States. Les Paul and Mary Ford.
Well, there you go, you see.
You didn't know that,
your nonsensical theory that, he didn't play the guitar, did he?
Well, I didn't think he
did. He invented the world's most famous guitar.
George Stevenson, says here from Old Man Gooner, did not invent the steam engine.
Oh, yeah? Who did that?
He doesn't say.
No, well, exactly. It was George Stevenson.
Very careful. You don't start abusing people just because they're correcting you.
Uneducated.
And a lot of people are saying Townsend was playing a Rickenbacker at the time of substitution.
Really?
But anyway, he probably had loads of guitars.
He probably did, yeah.